Welcome everyone to the JP Network again. And if this is your first time being here, my name is Paul. We are going to get into a hefty topic today, but we also have a special guest today. And I want to welcome our special guest today, and this is Mitchell. Welcome, Mitchell.
Hey, thanks for having me, Paul. I'm happy to be here and just talk and have a good time and share some experiences and hopefully it's you know someone can learn something or hopefully my experiences can benefit uh, other people. So excited to be here. Thanks.
Hey, no problem. That's perfectly great. But to welcome everyone, I want to thank you for all. If you first tuning into this, we actually go live at 8 p.m. Friday nights actually 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Pacific Time. Wait, Eastern Standard Time? Yeah, Eastern Standard Time. And that being said, I just want to give a quick disclaimer that our thoughts and our opinions are completely our own. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions, and there's always exceptions to the rule. But today's topic, we will be discussing what to actually expect when meeting your Filipino girlfriend for the first time in the Philippines. This is going to be an impactful dynamic conversation. Is not going to be just all bullet points. We're just going to get into a whole slew of different topics about the practicality of what to actually expect when you first arrive. We might even talk about maybe some culture shock. We might talk about certain things to what to expect when you arrive in the airport in Manila for the first time, what to do when you pack, like different things and all about that. But with that said, I want to welcome my good friend, co-host, Bob from Love Beyond Sea.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing tonight?
Wonderful. How are you?
Very good. Like I said earlier, it snowed today, but it was cold, and hopefully that's the last sign of snow this year. I think it might even be spring already. I'm not sure.
It's getting there. We're actually gonna go right into was it spring 4? We're actually gonna go into daylight savings. Do you do daylight savings where you're at?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, I did.
It's on my calendar, so I don't forget.
No, okay, that's awesome. So I do want to welcome everyone that's here. If you can, just leave. We're not going to answer all of the questions. We can kind of cover some of them along the way if we do actually see some things. But we're going to try to just open to a Q&A at the very end. So if you do, if you can just hang in with us, we're just going to go right into our topics today, and hopefully this is going to be really educational for all of you today. But Mitchell, so tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, hey guys. My name is Mitchell. I'm from Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Born and raised north central Minnesota. On this channel because I met a wonderful woman. Her name's Ren. Fell in love. It kind of fell in, watching some content for Paul and Bob, and eventually I reached out to ask a few questions. Paul's been great, answering a lot of questions. And I got the opportunity to come on here and share some experiences and hopefully help some folks out and just have talk about it. It's I'm excited to talk about my Filipina, and she's the love of my life. So it's something that I'm really passionate about, and I'm always looking forward to talk about it. So
that's really good. So with that being said, Mitchell, how long have you known Ren?
It's going on 3 years now.
Okay.
This spring it'll be 3 years that we've been talking. Long. It's not something I ever expected. I know a lot of people could probably say that it's not something I expected, but it was during COVID. Kind of the tail end of it for Minnesota, anyways, for our regulations that we had in Minnesota, USA. It's on Tinder. I'm a single guy and can't really go out to the bars or can't go out, can't go out to meet people like normal, right? So I'm on Tinder, and eventually, I paid for it. I paid for like the Tinder premium, So I'm like, I got to get myself out there, because I was coming off of I was about 2 years removed from a long-term relationship, so like I got to get myself out there, and I ended up matching with a Filipina. Just some small talk. And
where did you meet her on Tinder?
Not Ren. this was another one that I met, and we briefly talked, and it kind of opened up my eyes and to the world of the Philippines.
Mm.
Started talking with her and made a Instagram account to continue to chat with her, and it didn't really work out.
Mm.
Nice lady, but just weren't meant for each other. Um,
That's
but
understandable.
it was just a very short thing, some small talk. It was kind of interesting to learn about the culture, and because everything was so different. Because of course, I know about the Philippines, and mostly because I'm like a history buff, like U.S. history, and so of course, like there's a lot of that going on with like World War II, for example. There's a lot of stuff going on with like MacArthur and the Japanese and that whole deal. So I was aware of the Philippines, but kind of opened my eyes to it. I love to snorkel and I love to swim. I live in Minnesota, so I'm not by ocean, but I
Yeah.
got plenty of lakes in Minnesota, so I love to swim. And then I started looking into the Philippines and going, because I would like to travel, travel to Asia. I was like, oh, I would like to go to the
Yeah.
Philippines. This looks nice. Well, on Instagram, saw this beautiful woman on an island that um, I was interested in going to, Bothell, for snorkeling and other sightseeing and stuff like that. And so I messaged her, and it uh, didn't have a contact right away, but so I put, I'm not really much of a social media guy, so it didn't turn into anything right away. But then I just happened to check the app maybe like a month later, and she had replied, and then I replied back, and next thing you know, we're just exchanging like, hey, kind of telling them each other about ourselves, and I'm asking her about Bullhole, and then she's asking me about Minnesota, and that's kind of how it started. We just vibed. It just worked. Of course, I thought she was insanely beautiful.
Yeah.
Not to put myself down. Like I'm saying this, like man, she's way out of my league. I'm not trying to put myself down, but I'm just like, man, she's beautiful, and she's insanely smart. Her English was amazing, and so she knows all these different languages. And here I am barely speaking English. So yeah, we just started vibing, and one thing led to another, and yeah, we just really
Yeah.
matched, and there was a spark there, and I was like, man, I didn't expect this, but then the next thing I know, I found myself every morning looking, getting up and like, I gotta message Ren because it's night there
Yeah.
for her, and or vice versa. At night for me, I'm like, oh, she's waking
Yeah.
up, I gotta message her, that excitement just kind of turned into a great relationship, and
Mm.
um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I just want to interject a little bit about that. So, with that being said, I think we all three can relate to that, and we all pretty much got with a woman that was probably really out of our league, and well, within the American standard, I guess it
Yeah,
would
they
be.
all are.
Yeah, 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 and that's like how we all kind of feel about it. I know I fell in love with my particular woman. Yeah, I I was just like, man, I really won. I really felt like I won out of this because the one woman I finally wanted before I actually got with a Filipina. I was kind of dating in the prospect of saying every single woman that I wanted that I thought was in my league didn't want me. But every single woman that wound up getting with, the women that weren't really the women that I really wanted in America. And it was just throwing myself in a loop that I really didn't want this particular kind of woman, but I was okay with it because at least she likes me. And it just kind of toppled, and a whole lot of issues kind of just piled up on top of it, and they wound up having a whole lot of different issues, and I wound up basically backing a really great one in the Philippines. And I think anyone that has that opportunity to go to the Philippines, you don't know what you're missing if you are really looking. Bob and me kind of spoke about this, but if you're really truly looking, Bob, I want to ask you the same question. How long do you think it'd be for someone to find a woman in the Philippines if they're actually really searching for a prospective woman to marry?
But if you mean by find to identify somebody that you can, really devote your time to,
Yes.
golly, I mean, I would say if you spend every day like I did and more on the weekends chatting with people and looking at all the increasing number of profiles, gosh, the number that pops in my head is like 3 months
Mhm.
because so the first day I was on Christian Filipina, I probably had, or the first weekend, I would say, I probably had 200 chat requests to just ignore. They have a button there that says politely, decline, because at least you want them to know that you received it and you're not just ghosting them, ignoring them. And so there's limitless opportunities, I think. And if a person, there's two things: spend time and then don't be so picky. Because if you're going to put time into it and you're not going to be picky, really, really picky, 2 3 months ought to be plenty to come up with 4 or 5, and then you kind of quickly narrow them down, or maybe you only want to go to 2 or 3, or maybe you just want to focus on one. That's what I would recommend, because then you can more quickly determine whether they're worth talking to or not worth talking to. And Mitchell said the first girl, it didn't sound like very long before they decided they weren't right for each other. Then you just move on to somebody else you can spend more time with. I mean, by less than 8 weeks, I was already married to my wife. It took 54 days. I proposed on day 18, flew out there, married her fast as I could in 54 days, and we're married almost 9 years now, because the women that are there want to be married. And so all it takes is a man willing to not be super picky and say, I'm going to go meet you. And a good woman like the one he looks to have can be had. And I just want to comment here on Mitchell's girlfriend's dress. That looks like a little sundress to me, or a summer dress. Isa has some of those, and I even helped her buy some. I just think they look so good on a Filipina.
Yeah, me too. My wife has stuff like that.
Bikinis, that they have to be wearing. What she's wearing there is adorable. It's beautiful. It's feminine. It's just wonderful. And I like it when my wife, has, and it's getting summer, wears stuff like that. It's just so fresh and it looks beautiful. And it's a good sign. A good sign to see somebody dressed like that.
What did you say, Mitchell?
So I wanted to just kind of put it out there. It makes your knees weak, just like, man, I got this beautiful woman. Just looking at this picture, makes long distance relationship just makes your heart hurt. Like, you're just like, man, I just want to go back. And like what you were saying, Bob, you made it happen quick. I'm planning to go back. I'm going back in this June.
Okay,
for my second visit, and I'm bringing a ring because I gotta propose. I gotta get this.
Wow.
So
now we're talking.
And so now I'm telling myself, I wish I would have been a little more with it. Because I went last year in June. I wish I would have been a little more with it, and maybe I had a ring with me. And I think it was important, of course, to meet the person, of course. But I think I already kind of knew. Like, that's the whole reason why I talk a big game of like, I gotta travel and I gotta go swimming, but I don't think the thing that's going to pull me and push me to actually make that commitment and take the time off from work and spend the money to get over there was this woman, Ren. And I kind of wish I would have been a little more prepared. And because now it's like, man, I wish I would have proposed last year.
Did you know you're going to propose to her in June?
Yep. Yeah, we've talked about that. I think that's important to talk about it and to have clear expectations on.
Hold it. Then, are you going to get married while you still have some time to plan a wedding?
Well, unfortunately, no, we're not going to get married this June. We're kind of considering some options, but it'll probably be the next year. She's in her final year of college, so that's really important to her to finish that. So she's going to finish that up. And if that's not a reason, that's not stopping me from getting married, but it's more of a time issue. Like I was talking with Paul previously, you only get so much time off from work, but I've already gone down some avenues of talking to my employer, to get that time off. And then me and Ren were also discussing like the options that we have, I think we would love to have a wedding in the Philippines because it's going to be a much more affordable. You can have a destination wedding because we can be on a beach or have a nice, and then of course her family. And that's another thing is, she has a much larger family than me, and they're much closer. I'm not saying I'm not close with my family, but that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother level, like how much family they have. So I think that's important that I want her family to be there for the wedding, and I want to be able to put on a great wedding, and I could something for a couple grand. I can put on a great wedding with some great
That's
food.
For sure.
But if I want something like that here in Minnesota, I'm probably talking 20 grand. That's a huge difference. So
it's important. let her family go to the wedding and eat lots of good food, and have that
Yes.
festive environment that you helped put on, and shows respect to the family, because
Yep.
all the brothers and sister, everybody's going to be invited and
Yep.
probably and partake. And it's called like a grand wedding. That's what my wife's mother wanted, so that's what we
Yeah.
settled.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only issue with that is like, um, the K1 visa potentially is going to be a little quicker rather than the what is it, the CR1, I think. Correct me if I misspeak. I haven't quite gone down that path, but I'm slowly
Yeah.
kind of learning and getting aware of what needs to happen.
Yeah.
But it's just tough because I really want that wedding in the Philippines, but just every day that I
Yeah.
don't have her here, I'm just so excited to bring her home
Yeah.
and have her meet in person with family and all these different things I want to show her here and just be together, right? Like that's something that's really important. So, but it's one of those things where I'm willing to put the time and the effort and I know that it's gonna. A lot of people say and sorry if I go off on random tangents
It's
here, but
fine.
a lot of people say because they're naive or they have these stereotypes. People go, I've heard the negativity, like, "Oh, you're just taking the easy route. You're just trying to find some Filipina, you know, male
Yeah.
older bride." All respect, that is not what's going on here with Ryan. Me and we met organically, naturally,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Like those negativity, I go, you guys don't realize that this is not the easy way to not be able to hold and be with the person you love every day. That this is not the easy route. This
Yeah.
route that I'm taking, when we have a 14-hour time difference, I talk to her in the morning and at night. It's not
Yeah.
the easy
I
route.
want to
This is a lot of work
I want
you
to
got to put into
interject a
this.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to interject. So yeah, I completely agree. This is not no easy route. Everyone assumes that suddenly this is like the whole 90-day fiance stereotype that everyone kind of puts out there. This is not. This is not what we're doing. Even though yeah, you can go to the K1 visa route, which is the 90-day fiance, but this is not like everyone assumes. One thing that me and Bob actually recently put out was dealing with the haters, dealing with all the different negative comments like gold digger and visa. Oh, and you're a 90-day fiance financer. Somebody wants up calling me that, calling us simps and other things. Those words you're gonna get no matter what. Bob's got him. His wife's got him even at work before, and they're never going to be done with you on that regard. You're going to deal with some kind of hatred or even minor criticism, either just minor to major ones straight up calling you out. But it's difficult when you do that, when you do this, but it's definitely not simple as some put it. Now, I will say that kind of going back to what you mentioned a little bit is that I was able to consult you through some of this, right? I was able to consult some of it either.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
I'm here.
okay, yeah,
I don't want to
yeah,
interrupt.
yeah,
Yep.
mute. It's fine. So I was able to consult you a little bit or through some of this. Now, me and Bob, we do offer some kind of consulting calls, and if anyone's needs any kind of advice out there before you prior to you going, or even if you've been before, we can kind of walk you through at least of those steps. I know a little bit more. Bob's a little bit more senior. He's been at least to the Philippines, I think 5 times, right, Bob? You
I
said?
think, counting the first one, no,
Yeah.
4 times with my wife.
Okay. Yeah. So Bob's been doing that. He can also kind of give you some good biblical counsel through relationships, dealing with that. Bob and me are actually talking. I'm trying to help promote his book a little bit more. What's your book called again? What's the name of your book?
It's called Meant to Be: A Match Made in Heaven: How I Found My Wife on Christian Filipina. At least that was the original title. I might have changed it into some kind of a manual for how to find love beyond the sea, because it took like the first 5 years of our marriage, and I tried to put in order all these videos I had done and write it out, from saying, "Hey, how do I get a camera?" Because at the time I didn't even have one. And what's it going to be like talking to somebody from thousands of miles away, talking to a younger woman from thousands of miles away? What are people going to think? Am I doing the right thing? And all those thoughts you have when you're starting out, all the way to, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go meet her, and now what am I in for? And then get married, and what am I going to do? And so there was a lot going on that happened
It,
really really quickly.
Yeah, even including, you were even mentioning about them coming to America and preparing for that, even, right? I think you wrote that in the book too, right? Or you write
Oh,
writing?
well, I mean, it would be nice if they could say, "Why don't you come up here during the winter and see what it's like in Minnesota, or Nebraska or Missouri?" But that's just not going to be allowed by the government. So,
Yeah,
uh,
but I mean, in your book, do you cover about bringing her to the U.S.
oh, you mean
also?
after she's here for on a
Yes.
spousal or fiance visa? Well, yeah, you start. One of the videos I did was it was like, I don't know, 11 hours before my wife arrives. What's on my mind? You start thinking, okay, this is the day. Is she going to be on the plane? Am I going to miss her? Well, our airport's small, so I didn't see her get off the plane when I was sitting out there watching that little plane. It used to be a screenshot I had on my computer for a long time. I don't think it is now though. But I never saw her get off. But then when I went downstairs to the carousel, there she was, and I can tell you like yesterday what she was wearing and what the
Mhm.
temperature was like and how I was feeling. And that's the day you hope for. And you got to remember, you know, you guys, when your wife gets here, she could be very tired physically, especially if
Mm.
she's had to have 3 or 4 flights, and she may be a little bit angry with TSA or the airport experience. She's had a long time to sit there missing home and thinking about things. So when she gets there, it may not be, those two people running up to each other and jumping in each other's arms, because this is a big, big move for her. And so you kind of have to. I just want people to be aware of that. The guy's not changing anything. He's right there where he's always been. She's the one making those huge adjustments. So it may
Mhm.
take her a few days to really feel like it's not a dream and that it's really real and she can't go back. And that's just part of the adjustment process for her. So just be aware she's going to have one.
Mm. I know when I went to the Philippines, yeah, we jumped in each other's arms. Did that happen to you, Mitchell? Also, you kind of have a similar experience.
Yeah, like Bob was saying, you can remember exactly what she was wearing, and I
Hmm.
wouldn't say we had a run up. And I don't know if it's a Midwestern Minnesota thing, and also just a personality thing, but I was, uh, I, I, I remember I came out of the airport and sent her a message, say, "Hey, my plane landed," and she's like, "All right, we're coming, we're coming now," because her parents came one of her brothers came, and I remember spotting them from 100 yards out, and I saw her right away. I go, "Oh yeah, that's her." I've been on so many video calls, so many pictures. So yeah, no, we didn't have like the Disney, run up, but I I walked fast to get over there. They wouldn't even dare me
Yeah.
off the bike, and I was right there in front of them. And
Wow.
I think with the parents, of course, I gave her a big hug, and was didn't want to be too uh it, I, I just gave her a kiss on the forehead. I didn't want to go like, all right, bend her over and give her a big kiss on the mouth, like that on the mouth. This is more respectable and more conservative. But I definitely walked right up there and gave her a big hug, kiss on the forehead, and shook Dad's hand, gave Mom a hug, and had some chocolates from the airport that I gave her brother, and said, "Hey, make sure you share these." And
Yeah.
and it was just an amazing experience. I still just like even now I'm just getting goosebumps thinking about it, and
Mm.
that was something I'm looking forward to and to doing again. I think this time there might be some running and jumping, because this time I think that first meetup for us, I think we're both just a little shy, maybe like even though we know this person here, we've been talking for a year and a half, we know each other, but it's still
Yeah.
that first time. It's just yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
I,
then
I I can agree. I can agree on that first time. You feel a little this you feel a little that this is finally it. This is finally the girl that you've been speaking to finally, and you're finally going to actually meet them in person, right?
mhm.
And that's kind of how it is. And I did hug my wife. Yeah, we were able to do that. Probably my son was more excited. If you watched my video, my son was more excited than I wouldn't say I was really excited too, but my son was probably more excited than I was.
Yeah, it's just showing it a little
He
more, right? Yeah, he
yeah,
can't
yeah,
contain it.
yeah. Well,
like
he's calling her name. If you watch my video, he's calling. He's like, Joanna, Joanna. Yeah. And I'm just telling him, just chill out. She's probably here. We just got to find her. But he's screaming her name and stuff. But if you watch my video, he's the one that's excited jumping into her arms. And I'm the one that hugged her afterward. But it's still a beautiful story. It's a wonderful story to finally meet your potential bride, potential fiance, wife the first time. I think it's an amazing thing. What was your first experience when you first met your wife, Bob?
Well, first of all, when I got to Manila, I don't know what airport Mitchell got to, but I was told that about 5 people every flight in Manila lose their luggage, and my luggage was gone. So I spent the first extra time trying to figure out where am I supposed to go for this luggage. And also another thing you have to be used to.
That's really stressful.
Well, it is, especially when you find out that the Wi-Fi in the airport isn't working, and it usually is. It often isn't. So now I didn't know how to contact her and say, I'm here, but I got to get my luggage taken care of. So I couldn't even let her know I was there. So I'm worried about, is she going to think this guy stood me up? So I borrowed somebody's phone that worked in that area where all the luggage is, that I guess it hasn't been claimed yet. And he said, here, use my phone. And I got her number from Viber, and I used his phone to call her and say, okay, I'm here, but I got to figure out what to do about my luggage. So she said, well, I'll be out here. So when we decided that I'm going to have to, that they'll send it to the hotel, hopefully soon, who knows where it was at the time. But then I went out to meet her, and unlike Mitchell, I didn't know who she was, because to me, all the women looked alike. So I'm walking, there's so many people out there, and it's like at a football game or something. And okay, well, it looks, no, that's about the same height. No, same hair. No, turn around, please. No, that's not her. So I'm thinking, well, so I stand out a little bit more because I'm 6'2". And so she found me, and she was with an escort. Somebody went with her, just, in case. I don't know why. But then we took off in a taxi. But there was no fireworks or anything like that. And right away, she was arguing with the taxi driver, who was immediately overcharging us, and they were going nose to nose. And it's like I hadn't even been introduced to her, and she's, they're going nose to nose, pointing fingers. He's turning around, and I'm thinking, literally, I told her, hon, he's going to throw us out of this taxi if you don't calm down. Because she wanted to make an impression right away that she was going to stick up for me, and it was wrong to take advantage of me just because I was an American. And we actually saw him a few days later, and it went a lot better, but we needed a ride. But it went well. And so eventually then it was, okay, hi, here I am. And who knows what the magic words are. It's like, well, here we are. And I didn't even know I couldn't have found Philippines on a map. It was just like, okay, here I am, here you are. And we couldn't meet the family because we were in Manila and the family's in Davao, 599 miles away. So we did eventually. We were actually going to meet one of her half sisters in, it's a different city near, I don't want to mispronounce it. It's Cavite, near Manila. And that was an adventure just to get there and not lose your life in the streets, they're so crowded over there. And then eventually we made it back to Davao, where I got to meet the whole clan. And, they're probably thinking, well, what about this guy? How's he going to treat my daughter? And how's he going to treat us? And all I know is I ate a lot of food over there, a lot more than I should have.
You said you drank a lot of water too.
I was constantly like, how come you guys don't drink water over here? This is deadly if you get dehydrated, but I just don't think they're used to it. So I always made sure we had water, and we were buying 5-gallon jugs and small bottles. And the first trip wasn't the most smoothest, just because I just really I didn't feel uncomfortable. I just knew that I was out of my element, and I just really wasn't sure how to react. And of course, I'd never met her, and we just met, 40 some days earlier online, probably 35. And so, but it worked out well. because I was intent on getting married. And if she had said at that time, look, my parents don't like you, or I don't like you now, well, that would have been fine. I would have called it off. But I went there to marry her on the very first trip, and we did. That's why we got together so fast, because I married her on the first trip. Because I thought, even if she shows up in a wheelchair, I'm still going to marry her. You know.
Yeah.
So what's there to lose? I'm just going out there to make it official, and not knowing everything about her. I don't think you should expect to know everything about her. She's going to reveal to you, like any woman, what she wants you to know when she wants you to know it. So you
I
just
will.
see how it goes.
Yeah. I will say that Mitchell, you're the oddball versus us, because we married our wives the first trip, but that's perfectly okay. I'm not saying there's nothing against meeting your wife for the first time and marrying them, or meeting them consecutively, because you get to know them a little better. Also, if you do take multiple trips, I was talking to another gentleman actually on YouTube, and me and him converse a little bit and stuff. And he wound up making 3 trips before he wound up getting married to his particular woman, and he does live in the Philippines now. But that's perfectly fine. It's just but it's really cool. I think it's really cool that we all have these different kinds of stories of found our how we found our women, and how God really worked together to bring these wonderful women into our lives. And I think you got a great woman. I got a great woman. Bob's got a great woman too. And I think it's such a unique experience to hear people go through not even this, just the good things about finally getting married to this woman, but also uh dealing with the difficulties. And I think there's so much like that. I know when I first arrived, one thing I noticed, and Bob kind of alluded about it, it's really hot. Did you face the same issues of like sweating a lot when you first arrived, Mitchell?
Yeah. Like
Mhm.
Bob had mentioned the water. I was in the same boat. I was drinking so much water, and I bought Gatorades, and I bought electrolyte powder packets, and I just felt like it took me probably a week before my body really, especially like from
Yeah.
Minnesota. Like we have some humid summers in Minnesota, but I'm definitely used to. I'm more of a cold guy. Like I'm comfortable in the winter, in Minnesota winter, just because you grow up here and you're kind of used to it. But over there, man, I was sweating so much, and I was drinking so much water. I'm buying the big jugs and the small, like you said, and buying the smaller jugs. And
Yeah.
eventually, she actually, on like day 2 or 3, she bought me a little towel that I would put in my pocket. There was not a little one; it was like an actual, like a hand towel that I just kept in my pocket, because I would have to constantly wipe sweat off my face. Otherwise, there'd be sweat in my eyes, and because I was just, I'm a hefty guy, and so that probably doesn't help
Mhm.
either.
Did you
Um,
eventually get used to it though? You
I
started
would
to kind of
Uh,
adjust?
yeah, I would say I, I, I I wouldn't say like I got like used to it, but I would feel like my body definitely. I kind of just accepted it, right? Like at first, I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I hate my shirt is soaked. This is uncomfortable. And then after a week, it's like, oh, it is what it is. Um, Lots of sunscreen. Holy cow! Because I'm like, I can't get sunburned. I'm a pasty white guy. I need lots of sunscreen, um, lots of water. But no, I think I had the benefit of, you had mentioned there's so many people at the Manila airport. I had the benefit of, I met her in Bohol. So I landed
Mhm.
at there. They have a little, just like a little international. It's like a little terminal. It's a nice little
Interesting.
airport, but it's just like this little terminal. So I
Yeah,
flew into.
I had a very similar since I met my wife in Cagayan. So I met her down in Mindanao. It's a smaller airport also, so it was pretty easy to pick her out.
Yeah, there was only like one or two planes worth of people there, so maybe like 100 people, 200 people max out front,
Hmm.
and kind of
Mhm.
like a little circle, and like I know the traffic's coming from the left, so I walk out, and I'm kind of looking to the left, and like I said, she was wearing another sundress, so not this one, but another one. So I remember that sundress, because I go, oh man, like I see her pull up with her, yeah. So like I said, I spotted her. And I'm like, I just made a beeline, cut through the crowd, and that's one thing got to expect is there's gonna be a lot of people, you know, uh, that are gonna try to. A lot of guys are like, you need a ride, need a ride. A lot of taxi guys are coming up on me. They're,
Oh
very.
yeah.
I wouldn't say aggressive, but they're trying to make some money. They're trying to make a living, and they see me, and
Mhm.
and I'm it's not, that's probably another stereotype, but I'm coming, if I'm a white guy and I'm a foreigner, I probably have some money.
Yeah.
So these guys were very aggressive. I'm like, nope, I got family. I got family coming. So I got probably approached that 5 minutes I was waiting there, because luckily her family lives pretty close to the airport. So I was able to text her, they can jump on their bikes and they can come right over. But just like that 5-ish minutes that I was standing there, I probably got approached by 20, 25 guys and ladies trying to try to get me, like, oh, where you going? You need a ride? I'm like, nope, I don't need a ride. I'm okay, guys.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay.
I was talking. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, so that was just basically, that was like my endpoint, that was like the first experience that I had of being, I don't want to say heckled, but having constant like interaction with people coming up to you. I didn't really have that too much in Manila, just because I was in the airport the whole time. So
yeah, I don't think we're really used to that kind of in the US very much too. We don't have people just breathing down our neck and trying to ask us if we need a ride. Usually we have to wave down taxis here. And but in the Philippines it's very, very different. They have something called conductors. And these are actual people. And I actually even wondered, and me and Bob talked about this a little bit with scammers through one of our recent lives, through a recent podcast. And you have to be careful about conductors asking you also for money, because if a conductor's asking you for money, you have to remember those conductors are getting paid by those particular drivers. They don't get paid by you. They actually work it out with whatever driver they're working with, and their job is to direct you where you need to go, whether it's a bus, whether it's a taxi, whether it's a shuttle or something like that,
or a boat. I dealt with that a lot on the beach, because there's Baliasca Island, which is a reef. So a lot of you have a lot of the people coming up trying to sell you something, and then what they do is if you agree. And then I kind of learned real quick, you can kind of haggle with them a little bit. Oh, 1,000 peso. Well, so-and-so down there offered 800. Like, okay, I can do 750. And then, so then what they do is they hook you up, and then you pay them. And then what they do is they split that with the boat captain. And then they go, okay, come here at, this day, either go now or come back at this time, and I will walk you to the boat. And then they bring you over to the boat. And then I kind of learned, because I went to that island a couple times. I kind of learned, who I could talk to get a good price, or I could just walk right down to the end of the beach where the boats were. And I knew some of the captains, and they were great guys, and they treated me really well. So I tipped them well. And so they recognized me, I recognized them. And I said, hey, I want to go back today. And can I just pay you? And they're like, yep, let's go. So, and it's just like, like a 10-minute little boat, just like a little, I don't know what kind of boat I don't know what you would call it, but it's,
is it one of the Philippine boats? The actual long Philippine boats? So that
like the long skinny boats, and then they have like the bamboo on the sides to kind of balance it out on
too.
But yeah, so they bring you out to the islands, out to the reefs, and you can jump in and go swimming, and awesome experience. So yeah, I can't stress enough how much I sweat. And back to the water thing, that was one thing that was huge, like constantly drinking water. And Bob, you mentioned that transition period of them coming here. That's one thing I'm nervous about. I've daydreamed about that day that Ren gets to come here, and they're like, what if she comes in the middle of, this has been a mild winter in Minnesota, but what if she comes in a normal January we're sitting well below freezing. We're sitting at 0 degrees or wind chill of -10, and the coldest she's ever experienced. She's like, man, I'm so cold. It's 25, it's 26 Celsius. And then I looked it up. I'm like, that's 80 degrees. What? And you're cold? It's like, oh man, she's going to be in for a shock when 80 degrees is cold, well, guess what? Now it's -20 wind chill. Then you can feel that when that wind hits you, you feel it in your bones. So
it's not really a problem, because my wife got here on January the 11th. And like a week later, when we went to Social Security Department downtown, it was some of the coldest, windiest, freezingest day. Your fingers are cold. And, but yes, it's a shock. But you have the opportunity to say, look, here's pictures of where I live in the spring and the summer and the fall. Explain to her we have, 4 seasons here. It's really cold. It's not going to last. It's going to, it's going to get better. But also, since she's here, it's a chance for a woman to to buy winter clothes and look
Mhm.
really nice. Women like that. So you say, hey, hon, we need, well, probably she should have a winter coat before she gets here, or
Yeah.
at least something nice, warmer. And then you can say, hey, let's go to some of these malls and let's find you some good gloves and boots and cap and coat. And she's going to
Scarf.
like scarf, like the
Yeah.
fashion aspect of getting dressed up. And then the winter's over and the spring comes, and then she's going to start wearing different clothes, and then she can start wearing the shorts and the short sleeves and whatever. And then she'll realize, okay, it's going to be cold for a while, but it's going to get more beautiful than she can imagine for half of the year. It really is. The spring and the fall is beautiful. Summer she's already used to. And so the only problem is the winter, and it's not really a problem. Filipinas can adapt to any weather, and it's not full time. And you can tell her that and reassure her it's not full time here. Yes, it can get cold, and you can show her some videos of when it's like other times of the year. It's normal, it's beautiful. Minnesota, I lived in Minnesota, in St. Louis Park, Minnesota in 1982, 81, and it was cold in the winter, but it was also very beautiful weather.
Yeah,
Just like
you're right next to the
can be
lakes over
beautiful.
there in St. Louis Park. So
Yeah.
I'm actually right there on West Minneapolis, right on the border of St. Louis Park. So you got all those lakes right there, and now it's Body Musca now, but I think that used to be called. They changed it back to its original native name, to honor the natives. But what did it used to be? Lake Calhoun, I think. But now it's Body Musca. Um,
Mm.
but no, and that's something we're aware of, and we've been talking for years, and we do video calls, and I've told her, like, I'll make sure if you are coming in the winter, we'll make sure to have a set of winter clothes right off the bat, and then, like you said, Bob, that's a great idea to go shopping and do more, stylize yourself.
She'll like that.
And
It's
then
one
I
Yeah.
way
told her,
for her to get used to the weather. Well, at least you can look nice and show your
yeah,
friends back in the Philippines what it looks
Yeah.
nice to
yeah,
dress up in the winter.
Yeah.
I've
This
told her,
isn't.
like, I'm gonna gladly spoil you, and I'm gonna go out, and if we're going somewhere, I'm going out 15 minutes early. I'm gonna start the car,
Mhm.
so when you get to the car is already going with some heat. You're not going to go sit in a cold car.
Exactly.
She's seen me when I go out to the car, and I'll be in a video chat with her, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I can see your breath." I'm like, "Yeah, it's cold," but so I've told her, I'm like, we'll make sure that you're dressed appropriately, and I'm gonna do those things because I care about you, to warm up the car and heated seats and all that good stuff. Heat packs for your hands, and yeah, just
She'll
Yeah.
she'll be fine. She'll
They
be fine as long as you
they
take.
wound up having heated coats too now, so heated pants, coats now, and all that stuff now. I just want to interject a little bit. This isn't going to be really uncommon because how many Filipinos do we know now in such a vibrant community that live in like Chicago now, and how much snow they have in Chicago and New York.
True.
And they have a very very vibrant amount of Filipinos that live there. So this they can, and because I was worried about it too. I'm like, because you don't see very many Filipinas like on YouTube at all, dancing around in the snow. But my wife's excited because she's really excited. Even though I live in Missouri, I don't have a very big, vibrant Filipino community. Most of our Asian community here is Vietnamese. So, but and I wound up just talking about my wife a little bit about that because she wants to go to a Filipino restaurant. And I think I only know one that's in the St. Louis area where I live at. But
There's one in
but
Kansas City. We've been talked about going
Mhm.
there someday.
Okay, that's really cool.
Only
I know
one I
there's a
know.
Filipino bread place. I don't know if it's still open. I know some of them shut down. Mitchell, I was talking to you, I think yesterday a little bit because you said you wanted to go to this Filipino restaurant, but they're about to shut down too, right?
yeah, no, it's been one of my we have actually, there's probably about five in the Minneapolis area, some a little further north. So I think, and there's even a Filipino food market. So I think there's a
Hmm.
little. It's not probably the biggest population, but in Minnesota or Minneapolis, there's a decent population of some restaurants. I've been out of like five or six. I've been to three of them, and one of them is called a Poi in Minneapolis,
Mm.
and I love that restaurant. I got turned on to it about 2 3 years ago when I started talking with Ren. I was like, I'm super curious about all this food, so I'm gonna go here, and I love the food already. I'm like this, and it's actually pretty authentic because it's owned by two Filipino brothers, and their parents were and I met their parents. They they were I think the one guy was in the Navy, and then his wife, he married his Filipino wife, and then they got the two sons, and they opened up this restaurant, and amazing food. It's really good. But unfortunately, I went there the other night because they're closing March 23rd, and
Mm.
I'm like, I gotta go. And it was actually pretty busy because I think a lot of people like, and the guy was like, yeah, we're doing well, but I just need a break, man. He's like, bro, I've been running this business for on top of this other business. It's just too much. So I'm gonna sell, and I'm just gonna take a long vacation. I was like, good for you, man. Because he's getting up there in age, and he's just like, I just want to take a break and still have the food truck. So, and it's the only place in Minnesota I can get the San Miguel Pilsen. I like a beer, and I think it's nostalgic for me. It makes me think of my time with Ryan in the Philippines, and I can sit down and have some uh, inaha or some adobo chicken, and then have a San Miguel Pilsen, and it kind of just brings you right back. It's very nostalgic. So yeah,
Mitchell, I wanted to throw in for you if you're concerned about the heat. I was just under the impression that the Philippines was hot 100% of the time. I've been there, like I said, 5 times, and they're all in different, parts of the year, different seasons. I call them different times of the year. They only have really 2 seasons over there. But if you were to go in January or December, November, then the weather would be quite a bit different. And even August, we went in July and August, and I thought it was, wow, this is a lot nicer than May. March, April, and May, perhaps are the most stifling hot ones, humid, where it's 9 o'clock at night, and you get up and you go outside, and it's like, wow, it's already a blast furnace out here. How can it be so early? But then the flip side is 5:30 every day, no matter when, it starts to get dark, if not completely dark. Then it's nice and cool, and if you don't mind it. Then if you're driving around, you're on a scooter, your sweat just feels good because it's cold when you're moving fast, or you're in one of those sidecars or tricycles they call them. Then, but if you go at different times of year, trust me, it's not as bad.
I think of course I'm worried about it, but I think it's a lot of times we joke about it too. It's just something to be silly about, when she'll be like, "Oh, it's cold today," and I think she's just exaggerating a little bit, and then I go, "Oh, honey, just wait," just it's kind of more of a joke thing.
Wait.
I think
I do the same thing.
I think it's so it's mostly of course I'm worried about it because I care and I want her to be comfortable. But she said, it's important that we're together, and also I think it's just something to kind of joke about and be cute back and forth. But absolutely, I've only gone in June, and it was just insanely hot. On the beach, it's not so bad.
Season.
Yeah, on the beach it wasn't so bad, but you go inland, you go in, it's a small little island, Panglao, Bohol. I mean, because she lives on a smaller island, and then there's the big island. But you like get inland a little bit, it's like you can feel that difference because you don't have that ocean breeze. But
that's one thing I noticed too. When so if you go into the mountainous regions, into higher elevations, they do get colder. There is one particular part in the Philippines. I think somebody made a video about it. It's like the coldest place in the Philippines, and it does wound up getting close to about 40 or 50 degrees there, Fahrenheit wise, and not Celsius, whatever that is in Celsius. That's confusing for us, but it does get pretty chilly, and they do actually wear coats there, so it's actually kind of interesting. But I noticed one thing is that even after scuba diving with my scuba diving instructor, I wasn't allowed to go back to my wife's hometown because it was a higher elevation. Because you can get the bends. I don't know if you know about scuba diving, but you can get the bends because of all the nitrous oxide that's in you. That you actually have to degas yourself. So you have to stay at the elevation that you're currently at, so your body can get rid of that nitrous oxide that's actually in there through the oxygen tank. So that's how that works. And otherwise, you might start cringing up, start having the bends, and freak out. But that's. Yeah, so I had to stay the night in Cagayan because it was at that certain elevation. But when you do go more inland, especially because there's a lot of mountainous regions, especially in the Philippines, especially if you ever plan on going down toward Mindanao. Mindanao is all mountain regions. I wound up having to go up this huge hill going all the way to Davao. Well, I wouldn't say it's a hill; it's a mountain. It's a mountain.
It's Mount Apo.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, that's at like lower Cebu and all that, right?
No, that's in Mindanao. That's not far. That's
Oh
in
yeah,
Davao.
oh yeah,
That's not
that's
far
yeah.
from where our house
There,
is.
yeah, there. The problem with the Philippines is sometimes they name certain towns also the other certain towns. So they have Apo Island and then they have Mount Apo also. So yeah, that's kind of confusing sometimes for
And
me.
I don't think we dealt with tons of elevation, but for example, like the picture here, because I don't have a camera,
Hmm.
is that's that's the Chocolate Hill. That's Boho. A little south of that,
Hmm.
it's really hilly. Like you can see it too when you're coming down from Panglao and you're going, northeast into Boho, and then you start going up these windy roads, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You can, it's jungle and stuff like that. And I apologize, guys. I'm gonna be right back. I'm just gonna go use the restroom. I'll be right back.
Hey, no problem. No problem. Oh. I actually have some pictures of that.
We've got
Of
Paul
Boho.
and Alva showing up. Two people are going to be there in a matter of a month, probably here.
Yeah. How's everyone doing today? We are currently covering. If you guys are on your way to the Philippines, let us know. Alva, it's good to also see you, Alva Thompson today, and Paul S. It's also great to see you. Apparently, Paul S. says he's going in less than 3 weeks, right? So that's awesome. Where are you heading to, Paul S? Let us know where you're heading to. Maybe we can help you out through that. But with that said, yeah. So when you do arrive in the Philippines and everything, they're especially in the Philippines, especially when you typically when you arrive, you either arrive in the Cebu. Typically, you arrive in either Cebu Airport or in Manila Airport, and most of us will arrive in the Manila Airport first, and then we'll navigate to our prospective places. And I know I want to talk a little bit about Mitchell because Mitchell did mention that he had to go to another terminal, and there is when you arrive in Manila, there's a shuttle that takes you to the other terminals, and you have to be careful because some of those taxi drivers, when you arrive there, they'll try to take you there and they'll overcharge you. So make sure because that particular shuttle is completely free, and even though it might take you a little while to get to that particular terminal, it's the best choice because it's free. Mitchell, are you back?
I am back. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about that arriving in the Manila airport a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like you guys interacted with these guys in the Elvin and Paul in
Mhm.
the chat. That's super exciting, man. I'm happy for you guys. Good luck. A couple weeks out. That's
Mhm.
super exciting. For Manila, give yourself time. That's the one thing. Don't try to rush it. If you have I just don't think. I've only been there once, going back in June. Just don't expect a quick. If you have a quick layover, if you have to go to another, Palawan, for example, if you need to transfer to another flight, give yourself plenty of time because the infrastructure for the volume that airport does is just
That's a
not.
lot.
It's not where it needs to be just yet. And then they've expanded and made these additional terminals. And yeah, you have to transfer to these other terminals, and there's options. You can take taxis. There's the shuttle. I opted personally after reading online. Yeah, okay,
Wow.
perfect. 8 hour layover, perfect. Hopefully, you don't have any delays on your flight. But
Yeah.
that's kind of what you need. Um, hopefully, you can get depending on what terminal you land in, you can maybe go get a room for a couple hours and get a shower and get a couple hours of sleep. But
I hope so.
yeah, because I ended up being in Manila. I was only supposed to have like a 4 hour. Let's see. Originally, only going to have 4 hour layover, but my flight got delayed a bunch, so I ended up being in Manila for about 10 hours.
Mm.
But yeah, I opted from what I read online to use the shuttle, a free service that's operated by the airport, instead of trying to do the taxi route, and it worked out for me. Had to wait a little bit, but you kind of go out, you get your luggage, and okay, I landed in I believe Terminal 2, and I had to transfer to Terminal 3, the international uh, airport, because I landed because I flew in Delta from Minneapolis to Korea, and then from Korea
Mhm.
to Manila was the Korean airline, and then I needed to get to the other terminal, which was the Philippines airline. So I went from 2 to 3, and yeah, you get your luggage and you go to like the departure area, and luckily a lot of the signs are English. Everyone's super helpful, and I
It's
would
not even
recommend.
not even a lot of the signs. It's pretty much all the signs are in English.
Yeah,
Uh, That's how the Philippines works. So I just want to interject. I want you to continue, but the fact is that the Philippines does all of their paperwork in English. They do every single thing mostly in English. Uh, uh, if you're meeting a particular woman, if you're seeing any street signs, if they have street signs, that's a whole nother thing. but if they have street signs or they have anything like out there, it will be in English though.
Yeah.
And typically you'll find an English speaker.
Yep. And
Go ahead.
that's another thing is like, it's impressive, like, how much English they know, and people are very, especially in the airport. But yeah, follow the signs, go to the departure area, and you're probably going to see a sign that says shuttle. And then you can go there, there's a podium, and you basically walk up and say, hey, this is my name. This is my flight. I'm going to this flight. They sign that, they fill that out, and you get in a line, you go into a separate little room, and you just hang out. And the shuttle comes through. I don't know. It really depends. I was there in the middle of the night, so my shuttle came through. I waited about 20 minutes. I apologize. I can't tell you exactly how long I waited, but the shuttle part actually went pretty smooth. But I was there at 1:00 in the morning, so it might be a different scenario if you're there at 1:00 in the afternoon versus 1:00 in the morning. Yeah, and then you just get in line. The shuttle comes through. You take your luggage. You jump on the shuttle, and you just go. And then you just have to, just pay attention. They might make a stop on their way there. Because you're gonna pass through another terminal, and then you get to the next terminal, and you're like, okay, this is my terminal. The signage, and then even like the guy driving the truck will be super helpful, and he'll jump up and help everyone with their luggage, and so that went pretty slick. And then it just kind of turned into a waiting game. I was like, all right, let me go find a spot to lay down and get some sleep, because like my flight was only 4 hours. So I wasn't comfortable, going and getting a room. And that's the other issue, is I was flying domestically within the Philippines at this point, because I was going to fly to Bohol.
You said you went through a different route. So you went all the way to South Korea, right?
Yep. I flight directly from Minneapolis to South Korea. They have direct flights, like 14 and a half hours. And it is actually the cheapest option. And the whole reason why I had to do this is I saved like thousands of dollars by booking these flights individually. It sucks because instead of your luggage getting automatically transferred to the plane, I have to go collect my luggage, go to the new terminal, go through security again. But for me, like, I'm going to deal with this hassle and then save a couple grand, because if I try to book direct to Bohol, like, Delta and these other companies are going to try to charge me $5 grand, where if I just book these flights individually to like straight to Manila.
For Delta and then Philippine Airlines?
Correct. Yeah. Like if you try to book it all together, they charge you a lot more. So what I did was I booked a flight to Manila. Then from Manila, I booked a separate flight for the Philippines Airlines to bring me to Bohol.
Okay. I would just try. This is just me. For your next trip, just check out the flights if you can. I know, like you and I talked about yesterday when we were just generally talking about everything, to try to schedule things ahead of time. And I know I was able to book it. I was able to lock in for me and my son for a round trip was 3204. At that particular time. Now, granted, I went during the rainy season, which was in October, which helped out for me, I guess. So I did wound up, and I did see that price around that price recently, going directly from St. Louis on United Airlines, American Airlines at United, going to American Airlines and then going and then getting directly onto Filipino Airlines. So. Yeah, I would just, if you can do it, at least try. Another thing is just for everyone, everyone who's watching, if you do have the opportunity to get on a computer or even on your phone, go on incognito mode, because what your phone will do and these airlines would do is they would start putting your cookies into those airlines, and then every single time, because they know you're looking for flights, so every single time you are trying to book that flight, it's going to sometimes even upcharge you, because it's knowing that you're going to eventually you're looking for this
Yep.
particular flight. So
Mhm.
you're continuously going back to this website. So if you can lock it in under incognito, it's probably a little bit better, because now they can't search and track you.
And a VPN too. So if they
Yeah,
see
yeah,
if they see, oh, this is an IP from America, we can charge a little
exactly.
bit more. But if you switch, incognito, go to VPN, put yourself in Colombia or somewhere in
Exactly.
Eastern Europe, then there's actually, and that's a good they kind of are cracking down on that. You used to be able to do that a lot more about 10 years ago, but you
Yeah.
can still do that for when you're booking hotels and stuff like that. Um, we, I would mention the immigration. I think when
I
you
still
land in
recommend getting an Airbnb though. I'm gonna voice it out there. I understand that people want to get hotels and stuff in the Philippines, but I think in some cases they do have a Philippines price, and in some cases they do have American prices for hotels in the Philippines.
Condo
And
tax.
yeah, condo taxes. Yeah, that's what Bob will tell you, which is the American condo tax. And I'll tell you, I swear by Airbnbs, you can get decent condos for $30 a night. It's great.
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of
So,
cheap options there, and then it also
mm,
depends on, if you're going to be on an island. Well, if you want to be on this popular beach, you're probably paying a premium. But what if I just go 20 minutes down the road and you can still be 20 minutes away from this premium beach, but you don't have to pay that premium price.
exactly.
I was gonna mention that for the immigration thing, you're not really gonna it's kind of just a standard process. You're gonna have, like, when you're on your flight, they're probably gonna bring you a pamphlet, and you fill that out, basically standard information, like, how much money do you have, are you bringing anything into the
Mm,
country, and then you if you're a foreigner, American, there's going to be two paths. Filipinos go left, foreigners go right. So you go right, and basically you just walk up to, like, a border security guy. They ask you a few questions. They look at your pamphlet, and you're good to go. One thing,
yeah.
so that's basically all. That's all you have to really worry about is, and it's a pretty
You do
simple
have to do
process.
that QR code now too.
Yep, and there's a QR code
Yeah.
for COVID, and
Yeah.
I see. Like, I had all my vaccination stuff set up, and to be honest, they didn't even check it. I had all this paperwork and
I know.
all this app set up, and I did all this to make sure it went smooth. So I would look into that, make sure that you have paperwork for vaccinations if they're necessary for the country. I don't think there are any more, but maybe
No.
just check, and then. But yeah, they didn't even
Yeah.
check it. They walked up and they
Mhm.
said, and one mistake that I made is make sure if you're going to bring pesos with you, make sure you don't have over 10,000. Um,
Mm,
just
yeah.
because I read online, like,
$1,000.
Yeah, yeah. Any $10,000 or PHP equivalent. Don't try to bring that over.
yep,
Because you have to declare that.
yep. And then luckily, I wasn't over that amount, but because I did bring some that
You don't need $10,000 unless you're absolutely staying there for a long time.
I may have misread it, but I thought it was 10,000 USD, so I thought it was good.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It's
then I
10,000.
read on the
Yeah.
pamphlet that it was 10,000 PHP. You couldn't have
No,
over that.
I
no.
bought it
It's
$3,000
$10,000.
when I went. I wanted to make sure I came back with at least 1,000 just to be sure.
So the
Yeah.
so the way I know it works is, yeah, you have to declare to customs there in the Philippines anything over 10,000. Actually, at 10,000. So if you bring 9,999, you don't have to declare it. But if you bring 10,000 USD and over, you have to declare it to customs. The main reason why is because they don't want you harboring drugs and stuff and sending money or doing some kind of prostitution and all these things. They want to basically track you and your money. Also, when you open up a bank account there, also with the 10,000 USD, with, I don't know how much that is in Philippine peso equivalent, but when you open that up, they only they only what is it? They only secure up to that $10,000 mark anyway. So, and then anything over up to that $10,000 mark, it's no longer secured through their bank, and the possibility you can lose it, the possibility other things can happen. But yeah, so we have FDIC insurance here in America, and I don't know what the exact amount is that they secure the amount of our money here in America, but I know in the Philippines that's only up to 10,000 US dollars, and that's how that works. So
Yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah.
simple, and it maybe went
Yeah.
slick for me, but
You don't
it
need it
it
though that
it
much.
no, no, no. I'm just going back to the process of when you get off the plane. It's pretty
Hmm.
slick. Just make sure to look into any QR codes you need to get, or but otherwise they'll give you like a little packet and you fill it out. Like, all right, we're 45 minutes away from landing. The stewardess will come around and give you this little pamphlet, and you just fill it out, and um, yeah. But
Mm.
um, yeah. Any more questions? I guess on the for me everything went pretty smooth except
Mhm.
my flights got delayed a bunch of times, so I was kind of in this limbo, which really sucked
Mm.
because I'm tired. I just spent the last 20 some hours either on a plane or an airport, so I'm a little tired. I'm a little ornery, and they kept delaying my flight. And it wasn't like a delay like it was like, oh, okay, instead of 8 p.m. or instead of 8 a.m. it's going to be 9 a.m. So I'm like, okay, it's an hour. But then 9 a.m. rolls around. I was like, nope, now it's going to be 10 a.m. And they just kept doing that, doing that, doing that. And then even like I was telling Paul, finally it's on the board. This is one advice I'll tell you guys about Manila is everything like when you're in an American airport, at least my experience in the airports that I've been in, everything is digital. You can watch those boards. They update those boards. They update your phone with your exact terminal and stuff like that. You really need to listen to the intercom overhead. They're going to put
Mm.
out a lot of information over the intercom that's going to be updated much sooner than you would have those boards updated. So I got in line because my board said, yes, I'm finally boarding 11 a.m. at this terminal. I'm in line. I'm about halfway through the line. And all of a sudden, and then in front of me, you can see on the terminal, all right, that's my plane going to Bohol. But then all of a sudden, over the intercom, I hear flight SA
It,
120 is now at this terminal. And I look at my phone
yeah.
and I go, okay, well, my phone's telling me this. I look up at the board's telling me this. Now I'm like, who do I trust? Do I trust that intercom
Yeah.
or do I trust the board? I went with my gut and I listened to the intercom. I was the first person to get to the brand new terminal because
Yeah.
and then everyone else came and then so it ended up everyone had to wait because everyone was confused. So that's one piece of advice if you're doing a layover and
Yeah.
in
I,
Manila is listen to that intercom. You can't trust the board. Of course, follow the board. You know,
yeah. As much
hopefully
as
you
you
guys
can.
yeah, hopefully you understand when I say board, like the TVs that kind of tell you your flights and your
The
departures.
screen, yeah, the
Yep,
screens for the flight changes and all
yep,
that.
and your
I
apps
have
on your phone. But yeah,
Yeah, I have two things I want to interject about. The first one was Starkles, I guess. So Starkles is saying actually it's 10,000. Actually, it's 10,000 PHP as well. I also read it in a pamphlet. Starkles, I'm gonna be really open and honest with you. I just pulled it up on my phone, and it actually says if a person wishes to bring more than the equivalent of USD 10,000, a written declaration must be made in the form BSP, foreign currency, and others affect foreign exchange stuff. Basically, I think it's a I think it's a typo what you're reading because
$20.
yeah,
10,000
yeah. 10,000 is $189. 10,000 Philippine pesos. I brought
Really?
more.
200 or so?
Huh
Okay,
huh
so 200.
10,000.
Yeah, that's right. Times 5 times 10. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost $200. I brought a little over $250. I didn't have to declare that. So yeah, so
Now
that
we know.
doesn't make
they
sense.
didn't like
Yeah, that
search your
doesn't.
bag or anything like that. I will
No,
say, like
no.
you guys were reading this online, and I read that's the same thing I read online. But
Yeah,
and I don't know if it like you said if it's a misprint or
I
misunderstanding.
think it.
But that
I think
that
it is.
pamphlet does say 10,000 PHP, so that's just something to bear in mind. Like, and they didn't check my bag or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if their website is if their government website is telling us one thing, I think we can trust that. But
Mm,
um, I remember
yeah.
having a little moment of like when I'm first time like, oh my god, I have slightly over 10,000 pesos in my backpack here, and it says on this
It's
pamphlet. I'm just saying that's what I read on the
yeah.
pamphlet, and
Yeah.
um, but yeah, it
Yeah.
could be but
Yeah,
it could.
Starkles is saying it could be a typo, but I'm holding the pamphlet now and it says 10,000 pesos. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I think it's a typo.
When
So,
did when did you
but
when did you go to Manila's Starkles? Like, because I went last
yeah.
June, and that's when I had that
Hmm.
pamphlet. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I think if you
It's
follow
perfectly fine.
follow the government guidelines, I think we'll be okay. And like, it's not like they
Yeah.
search your bag. Has anyone had their bag searched? Like when they went, like Bob, you've been there 5 times. Have you ever had your bag? They just kind of they're pretty
No,
Um
because
nonchalant
I
with
don't
me.
have an account there. My wife does.
yeah. Yeah.
We
I
bring
will
money, we put it in her
yeah.
account, and then she withdraws it when she
Yeah.
needs it. And if she has some left over, she has some left over for the next trip, so in her bank account.
I will say, I guess two things with that. So the first thing I want to go back a little bit with you, Mitchell. You were mentioning about, just making sure and watching everything and listening out and asking people and asking questions. And then Bob was asking for help because the internet wasn't working. I think the best way out of
Wi-Fi.
all is, well, the Wi-Fi wasn't working. So I think the best way out of all of it, and I wound up friending a lady, is just to ask for help. I think out of anything you could possibly do, especially with Mitchell, me, and Bob, is if you don't know anything, just go up to people and ask them, see if they can help you. I think it's the best opportunity to figure out, so you're not missing your flight, not missing it, like an opportunity to get to where you actually need to go. If you're missing your luggage like Bob is, or if you have a flight change like Mitchell has, or if you just don't know where you're going like me. So I think it's just helpful in any which way. Yeah, it's all part of the experience, because the more you do it, you'll eventually know how to do it, actually. So I think it, and then you can get on these live chats with us and you start telling us how to do these things. So that's kind of fun.
And the stereotypes, or if that's what you call it, if that's the right phrase, of Filipinos being super kind and generous and helpful and nice is absolutely true. So
yeah, it's very true. Yeah.
in an airport where like there's going to be people, so ask. You can just always ask. And then I like to be prepared. You can pull up maps online of the airport. And some people, that doesn't compute. My brain, I can understand maps. So some people go, this doesn't help me. I'm just looking at a blueprint and this is not going to, when you're actually there, but to me, that helps me a lot. I go,
yeah.
So if that's something that you think would help you, and you're concerned about the Manila airport, or you're concerned about any foreign airport, you can pull up maps online and you can look at the map. You can kind of figure out where you're going, and then the signage in English.
Yeah, you can look at the maps, but I will say like this: if you do trust Google Maps, if you're going to drive there, if you're going to drive around in the Philippines, don't quite trust Google Maps, because one thing that I wound up figuring out about taking Google Maps is, even though it would tell me where the place was, I would wind up going at least like a mile or 2 kilometers, but miles further than where it would actually tell me to be. So, and that was just kind of an issue. Their GPS and how things are set up and everything's mapped out is not the best. And if you're thinking in especially if you think, unless you're in like BGC or somewhere in Manila that's really well developed and has actual decent street signs and actual stop signs and stoplights, if you're going way out in any kind of province area, they're not going to have a whole lot of street signs. So, and
just
yeah,
follow
you're not,
and then try to figure it out from there.
you just ask directions. That's what you do. You just need to ask. Yeah.
Or have that Filipina with you. That's the best way. And you don't have to do anything.
In some cases, yeah.
She knows what
to do. On family, we took the whole family up to the Chocolate Hills and went to some waterfalls. And I'm like, if I didn't have this family, I wouldn't have found this little dirt road that go to this amazing waterfall. It's like, there's no way I would have found this. And they're like, my family, we used to come here as kids all the time. Let me show you.
There's a lot of hidden gems in the Philippines.
Yeah, so really having those locals really helps. Absolutely.
Mitchell, did you have to pay some extra meals for the family since they were there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do it.
That's what I wanted to find out, because some people are kind of against that. They consider it rude, and whether it is or not, it's just the way it is. So I think it's helpful to expect that ahead of time when you're being prepared. Have extra money, because there's going to be extra people coming around, hanging out with us.
Absolutely. I think that's just being a good person too. If you guys came up to Minnesota and I'm like, I'll buy you a beer, I'll buy you some food, like that. I think that's just, and especially, I think that's just the right thing to do.
We're not big drinkers, but we'll definitely hang out with you and drink a soda. Oh, if you do get an opportunity, root beer is fine. But if you do get an opportunity, bring a Dr. Pepper to the Philippines, guys. If you guys have, anyone is watching, they don't have Dr. Pepper in the Philippines, bring it. So pack it in your bag and bring some Dr. Pepper for the Filipinos to try. So yeah, they might get you to try all the different kinds of orange soda that they have, and all the different types of foreign stuff out there. But then they have Coca-Cola and Sprite, but they don't have no Dr. Pepper. I did find a root beer there. And I will tell you, like, I had actually a particular experience in the Philippines. We went to a Robinson Mall, and one thing about Filipinos is they use the word instead of a. Like we use a's like or a, and they use So when they, instead of saying bank, they'll say bank. Instead of beer, they'll say ba, and that's just how they speak a little bit. And when I was at the Robinsons Mall, I went to a Chowking there, and we ate some Japanese Chowking, and I wanted the A&W root beer. I told Bob this, and I talked to the attendants there that were serving me, and I wanted another soda. So they don't have free refills typically in the Philippines, so you have to order another soda. And I told them I want the A&W root beer, and they looked at me kind of dumbfounded, like, what is he saying? Sir, that's not available. And I'm like, it's right there on your on your vending machine, your soda vending machine. I want the A&W root beer. And they looked at me and they looked over there. You mean root bar? Yeah, I want the root bar. So that's kind of how it is. But it was funny.
Yeah, I'm just now finally getting that A down. Like,
Yeah,
Red would always
they
laugh
use
at me because
yeah.
I could not for the life of me, like, Tog Billaron in the city. I could not for the life of me say that. I would always say Tag Billaron. It's like, no, it's Tog. So
Gala. Yeah. So yeah.
Just wanted to
That's
remind everybody here going the first time, not to drink the water. Never ever ever drink the water. Don't drink the ice. And you have to be careful about ice cream, if it's made with water or ice or crushed ice or anything like that. No water, no ice, because it might not be, you might not be able to tolerate it very well.
brush your teeth with bottled water too. Yeah, like
actually, I use sink water for that, but I wasn't.
I was paranoid, so I used the bottled water. So
okay. I recommend I recommend this. So if you can boil the water there and it's fine. But you can boil the water there and it's fine. They're finally changing that in a lot of areas. One particular person, he wound up doing like an actual video and testing the water around Manila, and it is safe to drink now. You can drink the water in Manila in certain areas. I wouldn't say it's trustworthy everywhere, but they do have a lot of water going into a lot of other feeds and stuff like that. They don't have a whole lot of different well water. You can't quite trust the pipes and stuff through there either. That's the biggest issue, is trusting the different pipes, because a lot of them are older. So they just don't have the infrastructure that we have to possibly test and treat the water that we have. So, but you can kind of drink it. You have to test to make sure that it's drinkable, but I wouldn't recommend it. But the Filipinos don't even drink their own water. I wound up
drink it there.
Yeah. So there are certain areas that you can trust it. Certain restaurants. When we were going all the way to her mom's hometown. I can't remember what it's called. I can't remember the town right now off my head like that. But we did stop at a restaurant, and they did serve us a water that was actually in a glass. And I was a little scared to drink it, but they assured me that the water actually was poured out of one of the actual big jugs of water. So they did let me know that. So I was able to drink that water, and they did put ice in it. It was fine. But usually, especially if you do a lot of traveling and you're actually going off the beaten path, you're going to see truckfuls of just like big giant jugs of water because they don't even trust their own water in the Philippines. So, and they're just loading them in these trucks.
Yeah, like a lot of the big jugs, like a lot of the restaurants, or like you would have it would be the purified water that would be like delivered, and you can see like, okay, yep. They're not giving me tap water. You're taking the water from the jug.
Yeah, the water dispensers or whatever they're called. Yeah, that's what they kind of do now. Yeah, so it seems like they're doing their best to make it pretty legitimate as much as they can. So I kind of trust them, especially. I mean, if it's a good restaurant and it's pretty decent restaurant, you can kind of trust it. I wouldn't trust any street food and some random person trying to give you some dirty water. So I wouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
But definitely like that. And if you're getting tap right out of your wife's sink or something, I wouldn't trust that tap water either. I don't really drink tap water at my own house because how much calcium
I don't either.
how much calcium is in it, and it's like it's already chalky tasting. So yeah, but it's just the way it is.
Yeah. Hey, Paul.
Bob said the runs.
Is that what the Montezuma's Revenge? I've never heard of it, but I know you can take pills for like malaria pills and diarrhea in case something there makes you sick.
You can go to. I went to a travel doctor that. So this is not for everybody, but luckily, my insurance was covering a lot of that. So I went to a travel doctor that kind of went over lists of vaccinations. Like, okay, what part of the Philippines are you going to? Are you at risk for XYZ? And I can't think of some of the terms or some of the things, and then if not, then get the shot or make sure you're up to date on your vaccines. And then they also prescribe you like a medicine, like Bob was saying, like you can have like your over the counter like Pepto-Bismol and stuff like that to help with the runs. But if you get it real bad, I luckily had zero issues. But you can actually get a prescription of like a pill that helps with that if you get really bad runs.
I will recommend the possibility of that. One of the first things you'll probably get in the Philippines is something called traveler's diarrhea. And one particular book I do recommend if you do want to read or even listen to, it's on Audible. It's called Vagabonding. And I think it's a wonderful read. It kind of tells you, hey, to get off the tourist path and go on the off beaten path and stuff. And if you want to actually really truly rugged and travel a little bit. And one thing it does talk about is you will probably face in most other countries is just the differences in food, and you can get a certain kind of medicine called traveler's diarrhea, which will help you with the runs and stuff like that. And I didn't face traveler's diarrhea right away, but I think about day 3 in, I started facing traveler's diarrhea when I was at my wife's hair salon. And I was in the bathroom. I had to go to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times there. And that was like my first real introduction with the tall bowl. So that was kind of it.
But just back to what Bob was saying, just be very mindful of what you eat, what you drink. Just be careful. Make sure even something simple. If you're going to eat at a restaurant, maybe just go on Google and just kind of look at the reviews. And if there's some foreigners that have had experiences, it'll probably be on there. So I think just be very careful and just hopefully, I mean, I think everyone's different, and luckily I didn't have any issues. So
I didn't really have too much issues after my traveler's diarrhea. I would say that you can kind of already know how to trust it. I mean, if it's a well-established restaurant that a lot of people are going to, even if it's street food. So if everyone's going to this street food that's really busy, then it's probably trustworthy as long as it's cooked. But if it's pretty dead and there's nobody there, be a little scrutinizing about it at least, and make sure that it's well cooked. One thing that you can definitely make sure the meat is cooked. Whatever it is, make sure that meat is absolutely cooked. And otherwise don't try it. No. I would not recommend eating pig blood soup or anything there. So because they have that. So
Paul, as far as traveling here, one thing that might ruin somebody's experience before they even land on the ground is trying to get too cheap with your airlines. Now, we were going to go one time and we had to rip up our plans and go later, and it cost us twice as much as it should have, but we had to pick some cheaper airlines. And man, I'll never again, because if you're on a long flight and even 4 or 5 hours and you don't have that TV monitor there, and it's smaller and there's less room in the aisle, it's like, to me, it's like, look, if I'm going to go that far, I want to have at least the minimum amount of comfort out there. And so that was the only time that happened, and it was not planned that way. But I think these cheaper airlines, you cut some things. I know you want to save money, but I guess if you can handle it, you're also probably going to take longer to get there with longer layovers if you try to save money. So I don't know. I'd rather just get there as fast as
Yeah,
we can,
I
because that was
know.
not good not having a TV monitor there.
Yeah. I will say one thing about cheaper airlines. I'm not sure about cheaper international airlines, but I know domestic airlines, cheaper ones, typically they won't feed you as much. They might give you a small snack or something if they feed you at all. And typically the way they get you, even though it's cheaper and the seats are kind of not as comfortable, the biggest thing to get you is the fact that your luggage is not added into the fee. So you have to pay to also put your luggage on there too. So even though you're trying to bring a carry-on, they'll charge you even for that carry-on. That's usually that's their way to get you. So yeah, it's cheaper, but then they won't add that carry-on fee. So that's kind of how that works.
Yeah, I think that goes back to your question earlier, Alvin. Like when you asked about your carry-on, I think, like Bob said, that was good advice. Just go on the website, find out what those dimensions are, and you're probably going to have to pay
That's
depending on the
right.
airline.
There's size,
Yeah.
dimension, and still a weight. I mean, if you got a couple bowling balls in there, you got to take one of them out.
Yeah, they definitely do it by weight there. It's not just by size. So that's a big one.
And then also just I agree with Bob too. Just spend a little more money and just be comfortable. Because if you're going to be on a flight for 10 plus hours, or like me, Minneapolis to South Korea, 14 and a half hours.
I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know exactly.
Well, it's still 14 hours from all the way from California over to Manila too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So just, I mean, if you can afford it, of course, sometimes, just the situation, you just can't afford it, and that it is what it is, and make the best of it. But if you have, for me personally, I'm going to dish out a little more money to be comfortable and fly on Delta or something, just because I'm not going to have any issues with fees or baggage, or just I'm going to get some nice food, some pretty decent food actually up in there. So
I like that airplane food. Philippine Airlines, I like it. It's nothing special. Some people probably think it's terrible, but man, when you're hungry and you're kind of bored, it's like, when is that food coming? I've been sleeping here for a while, and I watched 3 shows. Shouldn't it be time to eat? I don't even know what time it is on those long flights. You just have no idea because they shut the windows, and unless you look, you have no idea.
Yeah. Like Paul, Paul T in the comments, like you said. So not only do I pick the better airline, but also I did pay an extra $200. Like if I'm already paying, a couple thousand for this flight round trip or whatever, what's $200 to upgrade to Comfort Plus? Like for me, extra leg room, that's huge. Like
exactly.
I'm not, I'm just a little over 6 foot, but I'm like a hefty guy. I'm a bigger guy, and it makes a huge difference for comfort. It really does. So that's a great point, Pod. Like that, and I think everyone's probably experienced that, but it's another thing to really take into consideration. So
I
understand. Yeah, I agree.
You guys be patient. Be patient in the Philippines. I'm not patient. Many times my wife has had to tell me, if you don't stop being like that, you're not coming with me the next time. Because I'm complaining about the TSA guys. What the heck does he need to know what kind of meat's in my sandwich? What if I don't even know? Is he going to arrest me? They ask you, what kind of meat's on your sandwich? I said, I don't know. I haven't eaten it yet. It's in my bag, but I just bought what they had, and I start to get a little feisty, and my wife says, hon, just answer the questions. I say, well, why? It's a stupid question, or why can't I bring this water in here that I just bought over there?
Just 10 feet away.
Oh, it might have explosives in it. Well, you better tell the person that sold to me over there in that part of the airport, because it must be safe there. Why in the world are they make me drink this water or pour it out? And it's like these silly things like this. It's like, I do get upset, and she has to tell me this is just part of the experience. And it's like, I don't want to experience this, but I've learned now in 4 or 5 times, you can't change it. There's nothing you can do about it. Be very, very patient, or you're going to ruin your own trip, and it'll be your own fault. I'm criticizing myself for that. Just be patient with everything. Everything.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a big vacation. Do not bring your temper or anything like that.
I want to kind of add to what kind of Bob's mentioning for anyone to know. So when you get to like Manila, or if you go to another airport in the Philippines, I kind of experienced this even in Cebu. So what they would do is they would have one checkpoint for like a TSA or like a screening or something with an X-ray to put your bags in, and then not even 10 feet further, they would have another one that you would have to do the same thing and do it over again. Not only were they in some places they were only not only just checking you, they were doubling and even triply checking you. I actually had one particular encounter just leaving the Philippines. Not only were they double checking me, but they even had me open up my luggage and they wound up like rubbing some kind of powder across it or checking for powder or something. They even had me open it all up and everything. It was kind of weird. So,
Huh.
yeah, that was. Yeah, I don't know, but they were taking some kind of little bad thing.
Of drugs, I don't know.
I don't know. They wanted to make sure there was like no explosives or something in there on top of it.
Well, you got that far, it's like, but I need to learn to zip my lips.
You definitely gotta be patient, though, as much as you can. They're just checking and granted, okay, let's just put it this way. Granted, they are checking your stuff. I will also recommend, so make sure you're not watching out for scammers, especially you got to open up your bags like that. Make sure nobody's like accidentally dropping anything in your bag. And me and Bob were talking about, like that bullet scam and everything they were trying to do to people. But I will recommend that the fact is that they have more people working than we do in America now. So that's a good thing. So even though you're going to go through all these checkpoints, know that the fact that it's going to be at least faster than one individual in America that's going to screen hundreds of people. There's at least 4 of them right in front of you screening. Yeah, there's multiple people. That's the one thing I notice about even McDonald's in the Philippines. There's 5 people at the counter in McDonald's when I could barely get somebody at the counter here in Missouri. So that's kind of how it is. But so I'm glad that the Philippines is overstocking. Me and my wife were actually recently talking about this too, because she's going to understand that the Walmart checkout lanes here in America, there's barely any lanes open, and now you have to do self checkout. Yeah, but if you go to the Philippines, you actually go to the mall, and the actual checkouts in the mall, every lane's open. So that's how it works.
I want to address this question quick from Paul, because he's talking about reserving a hotel near the airport for the first couple of nights. One of the best things we did when we were on a long trip was we got a hotel just to sleep in overnight that's right close to the airport. That way we could get up, shower, change, and get on that plane. There's a place really close. I don't even know how my wife knew about it, right next to the airport, and we just stayed overnight there, changed our clothes, take a shower, and that broke up that long trip, finally getting to Manila. And then we went to Davao, from there. So you might feel like that's a good idea.
Yeah. I will say this. I'm just trying to remind Mitchell and Bob that I try to put this on a podcast too. So if we could read what they're saying, then we can address it. So that way people who want to listen can also understand what we're reading.
Yeah, I think in Manila there's speaking to the question of getting, like Bob just said, getting a hotel, there's actually, I believe it's Terminal 3 in Manila, where you can actually, if you're out of security, instead of going to departure, you can actually go up a couple levels, and there's actually like a skyway bridge that brings you across the highway, and there's a strip of hotels and malls. So I literally did not go outside. I got on my way home, because my flight was early the next morning, and I didn't have a flight leaving from Bohol that would get me to Manila in time to meet that flight. So unfortunately, I had to go the night before. So I landed in Manila the night before, and my flight is in 12 hours. I'm not going to sit in the airport for 12 hours. So you can actually go up to the Skyway, cross the highway, and now you're in a strip of hotels. I didn't have to go outside. You can walk right into a hotel, check into your room, and then I ended up going outside because I was super hungry, and I went
have
to
a question about that
across the street. Yeah.
Did you have to pay an early check-in fee though? You don't know?
For the hotel?
Yeah, no, I had to when I was in Cebu. I had to pay an early check-in fee because I didn't reserve a place. So
I had made reservations, or I had made a booking.
Okay.
So there's no early check-in because I landed at like 6:00 at night, and I think their check-in probably starts at 3 or whatever. But I knew that I was going back to Manila, and I made that decision that I don't want to sit around for 12 hours. I want to go to this hotel. I want to take a shower. I want to sleep in a bed. So that's what I did.
Yeah.
So I made the reservation in advance, knowing just from Googling, and if you guys look it up, Manila
Mhm.
Airport, I believe it's Terminal 3. There's a bunch of airports over, hotels over there, and even a mall, so you can go get some food. And but at that point, I'm just tired, man. I just wanted to get in my room, take a shower, and I ended up just like walking over to McDonald's and grabbing some McDonald's, which that's not the most ideal thing when you're on vacation, but it's quick and easy and cheap, and it's
Yeah.
right next to the hotel. So I checked in, went
But
down,
it is a
got my
different
food,
experience.
and that's one thing that's amazing about. I mean, I'll give McDonald's credit how they can have such a consistent brand all over the world. That's crazy. And of course, the menu is going to be a little
That's
different,
true.
but like their
Yeah,
fries
but
and their
but they definitely had some different kinds of food at that McDonald's, so it was kind of cool to actually see fried chicken at McDonald's for once. So
um,
that
going
was,
back to
I don't know.
Paul's question. I'm sorry, Paul. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No problem. It's fine.
Like
You say
I
Paul
mean,
T?
yeah, Paul T.
Okay.
You said a couple days. I think that's really up to you, sir. Like for me, I wanted to get to my destination, so I wanted to like if Manila is your destination, sure,
Mhm.
then you can go from there. But for maybe just try to plan that in advance. If Manila is not your final destination, maybe a couple days in Manila would be great because then maybe you have an itinerary. There's a few places you want to check out in Manila. But if you're not planning to do anything in Manila, I would say maybe just try to make it like a 1 day thing. But of course,
Yeah.
that's always up to you. If there's something you wanted to do in Manila, absolutely stay there for a couple of days. But if your plan is to get to another island, or I would recommend just try to get you land. If you're going to land on a Friday,
Mhm.
try to have your next flight maybe leaving on Saturday, just so you can get a night's
Yeah.
rest and a shower. But I mean,
Yeah.
each their own, and it really depends on what you
Yeah.
got going on. So, but
Yeah, I agree. So I think when it comes to it, especially if you're like what we do here, we talk about in the prospect of marrying a Filipina. So you kind of have to go through Manila either way, and you have to go to the embassy, and you have to do that whole legal capacity paperwork anyway to stay the night in Manila. But if you can avoid it, just go to your next destination as much as you can. Now, granted, I didn't have to go to the embassy. The embassy was shut down because I went during the time of COVID. So I was able to skip it and get an affidavit. So that was really cool. So I didn't even stay in Manila at all. I went right to I didn't even get to experience Manila like you guys got to. I just went, I arrived at the airport, I skipped out of it, and I already had my legal capacity, and I just went down to Cagayan like I needed to. So that was the cool part.
It's 10 million
But
people. A lot of
yeah,
people.
huh?
10 million people. It's a lot
What
of people.
about
Manila.
a
oh
lot of
yeah,
people.
that's a lot of
The
people.
traffic is insane.
It isn't.
Yeah, I heard about it, but I've never been to Manila, so I don't even know. So, but I heard that there's a lot of people, especially tourists, they put their backpacks in front of them. I guess because a lot of
Yeah, yeah.
pickpockets and stuff like that, so they put their bags in front of them. It's a pretty common thing, I guess, that they have a lot of pickpockets in Manila
Honestly,
and stuff.
that's almost anywhere. Honestly, if you get a high
Yeah.
population in tourist, so a combination of high population and tourists. Like I was in Italy, that was a big thing in Italy, but not so
Mhm.
much in Germany. But you still, anytime you're in a city, even at home, you just gotta
In a
you
big
just gotta
city.
be aware of your surroundings. So,
Yeah,
but 10 million
exactly.
people, that's a whole nother story. I think there's
Yeah.
probably, I don't know about Missouri and Nebraska, but I think Minnesota is like 4 million people in the whole state of
Mhm.
Minnesota. The whole state
We're
of
only 2
Minnesota.
million,
Yeah.
2.2.
So now
Oh,
you're going to
really?
this city
I
that's
don't know how
more
many.
people than, like, if you look it up, like how many people per square mile, like in Minnesota. I think me and Ren were talking about this recently, and like I'm going to make these numbers up because I don't remember the exact numbers, but in Minnesota it's 5 people every square mile. But then in Manila, it would be like 50 people. It's just like insane how much more condensely packed it is.
Yeah, I just looked it up. We're 2.8 million in St. Louis, Missouri here, so that's a lot. So, but
That's just the city, or is that the whole state?
that's the city. That's the city.
Okay, see, like
I'm talking the
the
whole state.
whole state is 4.5 million. And let me Google
I
it in
think
Minnesota.
I don't know. You'd have to look it up. I don't know how
Yeah.
many are in Missouri, but we're a pretty big state, so
Yeah.
Well, keep in mind, if you have a somewhat smaller state in the United States, if she's going to live there, she might like that. My wife would prefer a town of 5,000, to be honest with you. She loves these small towns in Nebraska because she's never imagined they existed before. nice small hidden towns, 5,000. She says, I'd love to live here. We got 280,000 now where I live. So, but to her, that's just about right. But she prefers something smaller even. And Davao is like 2 million. So that's where she's from.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
I
just looked
misspoke.
it up.
Minnesota is 5.7 million, and then Missouri is 6.1.
So yeah, 6.168. So almost 6.2.
Almost.
Since 2021, it says.
It's probably just because you have that St. Louis, and then you got Kansas City, and
yeah, we got a lot of big cities. We have Jeff City also, and a lot of big cities around us. So very big cities.
Just a culture shock. How many people?
Yeah.
Just so many people everywhere. That was a big change for me. And of course, I'm a Caucasian. I'm a white guy. So that's one thing I was talking with Paul is like I live in Minneapolis. So there's good diversity. Of course, we got a lot of people here in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. But it's a whole other story when I'm on the domestic side of the airport because I'm flying to another island in the Philippines, and I'm walking through these terminals of thousands of people, and I'm like, I don't see any other white guys or any other white people. It's just all Filipinos because you're in the Philippines, so that's a culture shock, and not really like a bad way, but more of like a I've never had this feeling before. So it's kind of I wasn't scared or anything, but it was kind of just like a fun something you kind of just realize. You just go, oh look at this. But
well, it's a little anxious. It is would you think that though? It would be a little anxious at least that you're kind of out of your own habitat a little bit.
I think that's probably the only time I felt it was when I was in that airport, when I was walking up and down because like I said, my flight was going to delay, so I'm walking up and down this airport and just nobody else, and people are, and maybe it's just all in your head, but some people are looking at you and who's this white guy, who's this white, but I wouldn't, so maybe like when I first like realized it maybe, but it quickly went away because I'm just like I'd never felt unsafe. I don't think I was. I was always smart. I always put myself in smart situations, but I never felt unsafe. In my time in the Philippines, I always felt warm and welcomed. So
me and Bob kind of went to the more dangerous area of the Philippines, I guess we would say, the place where in Mindanao they recommend a lot of foreigners don't really go because a lot of civil unrest down there. But we felt pretty safe down there. I would say I felt pretty safe. I found pretty helpful actually. I had conductors and other people just like straight up like take my luggage and throw it underneath a bus and shuffle me to my destination. So, but that's how it is. And but I didn't really feel generally unsafe there. And I know when I went all the way down to Davao, I did go through a military checkpoint. That was kind of interesting, but they just kind of waved me through. They made me roll down my windows and waved me through. It wasn't like a big deal. But there is certain cautions that you have to be aware of down that way. I wouldn't really recommend going down to the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, which is southwest of there. I wouldn't recommend going down there because that's some pretty serious civil unrest. But I know even in my wife's around my wife's town, they did have some recent, I wouldn't say recent, but in the last few years, they had some bus bombings, and that was kind of a big issue. People throwing bags in buses and leaving the bags there and getting off the bus, and it's kind of dangerous, but you just have to be really, really super cautious wherever you're going. But I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I live in technically the top 1, 2, 3 most dangerous cities in the world. Sorry, in the United States, I wouldn't say. And I don't really feel like I could walk outside right now and I'm not afraid that somebody's going to shoot me. I don't think. I mean, but there's certain just places you just don't go in St. Louis, and certain people that you don't really mess with in certain parts of St. Louis. Typically, people that are looking for those particular issues, and you're dealing with a lot of crime, you're putting yourself in those in those positions. We just had a particular student in school. He was doing a bad drug deal, and with another particular young kid, he was driving up and I guess doing a drug deal in his car with another student, and this other student decided that he wanted to take his life and shoot him, and one of the other kids in the back seat decided to run out of the car and run away, and they also got shot. But that's putting yourself in. I talked to the kids in the neighborhood who I mentor, and I said, you don't want to hang out with those kinds of people. That's where you don't want to put yourself in that position. If you keep yourself out of that position, yet you should have nothing to worry about. You don't want to hang out with people that are doing bad drug deals. So I wouldn't recommend doing that at all. I wouldn't even recommend doing drugs. But the fact is that stay away from people. If you got this kind of problem, you need to stay away from those kind of people. I had another neighbor kid. They wound up getting their house shot at because they were doing bad deals and a lot of bad issues. They started hanging out with a bunch of bad gangs. Well, stay away from those kinds of kids, and you won't get your house shot up. Sorry, that's just how it works. And it's terrible, but it's how it is. So, I mean, when you're in the Philippines, you want to stay away from predominantly dangerous areas. That's how it works. I mean, if you're in Colombia or if you're in Mexico, you should ask where can you walk? what places are good and what places are not good. I recommend don't be walking around North County in St. Louis or East St. Louis or near the strip clubs. I'm sorry, don't be walking around there because that's where a lot of the crime's at.
Yeah, your Filipino will know the dangerous place.
Yeah.
She's your expert. Absolutely rely on her.
Yeah, exactly. But I didn't feel at all like I was in danger. But me being with my wife and my wife knowing certain areas in those towns, I didn't feel like I was in danger at all. Even being down in Mindanao. I know a lot of people don't like going down there, but I didn't have no problem going down that way. So Mitchell, you have something to add, or are you all right?
No, sorry. Do you get?
Okay.
Hopefully, I'm
Okay.
not hearing anything from me.
It's fine. I
Any
just
background noise?
adding.
No, I think just in general, like you said, just be aware of your surroundings, and
Mhm.
like Bob said, listen to the locals, listen to your girl, and just
Yeah.
don't put yourselves in those situations. Like you're telling like those kids, just don't
Kids.
put yourself in
Yeah.
that situation. So, and
Yeah.
I think that just comes with travel, right? Like but
Mhm.
so as long as you don't put yourself in those situations, you're gonna have a great time, and you're not gonna have any issues. I mean, you
Yeah.
might have the only issue I would say, the only like negative thing I would say is sometimes being bothered for people trying to. If I would go to a popular beach, a tourist beach, getting bothered. Hey, sir, buy this, sir.
Yeah.
Dilly,
Yeah.
no, thank you,
There
and just
there is
constantly
a
following you around.
word. Yeah, I would have to find. There is a word you can tell them that says, "Hey, I don't want any. Go away." And I forgot what it is, but I know Corey from Cody. I think what was his name? I can't remember. I would have to tell you later, but I forgot. But he winds up telling us. But there, you can ask your Filipina also. Like what do you say in Filipino to tell them to go away? So there are words and stuff. And if you speak to them in Filipino, they'll typically leave you alone.
And most of the time, yeah, like if
Mhm.
you are assertive and you say no, thank you. Of course, I'm always respectful.
Mhm.
That's just who I am. But no, thank you, no. And
Yeah,
most of the time, they leave you alone. There's a few that
they
are
will follow you.
they're a
Yeah,
little
they'll
more,
push
yeah,
you.
they're follow you a little bit. And
Yeah.
I think it only happened to me once that I had
Mhm.
um only one time that I had to actually kind of get a little more
Yeah.
um I don't want to say aggressive. I had to kind of not I had to turn that switch where I'm no longer being polite, and because
Yeah.
he kept following me, and then
Yeah.
finally I turned around and said, "Dude, no, you need to stop following me." And he went and he walked away. So that was that. That was the only
Yeah.
time that I had that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but other
I
than
had
that,
a
yeah,
very similar. I had a similar experience right before I'm leaving the Philippines. It was like my last day being with my wife, and this one guy kept trying to sell me grapes, and he was being a little persistent too.
yeah. I mean,
There's my wife right now, Joanna's space right now.
hey, Joanna.
Corey and his wife from Dumageddon. No. I was talking about Cody, the one guy from We Wonder. He winds up saying something, Joanna. He says there's a Filipino word that you can tell them when they kind of get a little persistent, and I don't remember the exact word, but I'm sure you can help me tell them also in Philippines to tell them, hey, I'm not interested. And then Starkle says something about what did Starkle say? I know you guys moved on from the topic, but I spoke to the Filipino who was able to explain the currency issue, and they said if you exchange your currency into PHP before leaving, you're limited to 10,000 PHP. Okay, I guess so. Maybe you might be right. Okay, I'm not going to argue with you, but I don't know. I was able to change my U.S. currency in, I think it was around $250 at the exchange booth in Manila, and I was able to kind of go above and beyond 10,000 PHP.
Well,
I
I
think I
think
was.
so. That's the stipulation right there. Is you when you landed in Manila and went through customs, you had USD 250, correct? Now,
Yeah,
so if that 250 was peso, then you would have had an issue because you would have been over 10,000. At least that's what that pamphlet said.
maybe,
That's what the
maybe.
pamphlet said. So because
I guess.
you had US, that's
I,
maybe my
I I
interpretation
did
of it.
have some Philippine pesos with me, and I think I had roughly. I didn't tell anybody, but I had my uncle passed away, and my uncle married a Filipino also, and he had some Philippine pesos that I took with me in the Philippines, and I didn't let anybody know, but I was carrying it in my stuff with me, and I did have approximately maybe $400 worth of Philippine pesos with me.
Yeah.
So it was probably well endowed over 10,000 Philippine pesos. So, Joanna, I don't know what topic it was. So
It,
I know he was talking about traveling through, like, I think throughout Cebu, and basically he was kind of recommending something along the lines of certain what to say to people who kind of who are a little persistent trying to sell you something. So that's how
yeah.
that was.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems. The only reason why, Bob, Joanna, if you're asking the topic earlier, I think Alvin mentioned, what's it like going when you land the first time you land in Manila? What's like the customs and immigration? What kind of what's that like? And I just expressed like a story that I had where I read online 10,000 USD, so I thought it was golden. And what I did was I actually had that converted at my bank before I came because I wanted to have some cash on hand.
Oh,
And they had a
you paid a lot then to have it converted.
no, I did it through
Oh,
Wells
really?
Fargo, and it was X slick. I looked it
Oh,
up.
really?
They at the time it was like a good exchange rate, and I didn't have to.
Mhm.
My bank just did it for me. So
Oh, wow, that's
I
good at
said,
least.
yeah. So I said I can't remember the amount I had, but I converted. Um, yeah, Paul T, like you're saying 10K. So that's what online says. But then where the confusion is coming in is when I was so I had pesos on me, not USD. I had pesos on
Mhm.
me, and I got this pamphlet handed to me, and you had to declare, what you're bringing into the Philippines, and one of them was you can't have over 10,000 PHP, and I was like, oh my god, because I read online it was 10,000 USD, so that's where the confusion's coming from, and I think that's where
Yeah,
we're discussing,
yeah.
and then
I
as
I w
Starkos pointed out that it might be.
mm,
I'm not sure. It's just one thing to just be aware of.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
if you're gonna bring pesos with you, maybe just be
mm,
aware that potentially you can't have more than 10,000,
yeah, I
or just
guess
do what
so.
Bob does, just have or like Paul, just have the USD and get it converted there. I mean,
Yeah,
and there was no issues there. I ended up doing that many times. I was just me personally, my first time going to the Philippines. I wanted some of that
Of course,
local currency on hand.
you feel
So,
better about things.
and
yeah,
I think that's a smart thing to do, just because
yeah,
you can have your card that's going to work, but I think it's smart to have local currency. And so
yeah,
I think that's where the confusion is back and forth, is because the website's telling us one, but like Starko was saying that I guess it's you can have
mm.
it's just that, which doesn't make any sense, right? Like, oh, 10,000 USD, no problem. 10,000 PHP, which is only $200. No, it's like, well, that doesn't make
Yeah,
any
yeah,
sense. That doesn't
yeah.
make any sense. How is that?
I th-
But
well, I know one thing about the Philippines is they're generally inconsistent about certain things that they say or write down sometimes, especially on websites. You have to be really careful. Me trying to help people through the legal capacity process, and what they said one thing on like I remember this. The PSA was this like memorandum 2315. The Manila and the Cebu embassy has to open back up and start processing their legal capacity paperwork. Memorandum 2315. And then the Manila and the Cebu embassy and consulate was just like, we're not ready. and they were still in the PSA, the Philippine Statistics Authority, just like, you need to be ready, and they were like, well, we're not ready, and we're not going to open back up, and you're going to have to hold off. And then finally the PSA was just like, okay, new memorandum 2023-16. They're not ready yet, so we're going to wait for them. So we're going to give them 1 month to open up. and that's what the memorandum was. That was that legal capacity. And I wound up having to change my video because they kept making new memorandums. They were making new orders about what they were doing. And I wound up having to change it because I was just like, hey guys, you can get it in your state. And then I was just like, well, not anymore. So, but you have 1 month left if you want to get it real quick. And that's basically what my video was about. And then if you go to the LCR, which is the local civil registry, if you go to them, they don't even know what the PSA website says, and they won't even read it, even though you told them you can show it to the local civil registry. They'll be like, nope, we don't believe you. We only go what the LCR said. So what the PSA says. Well, this is their website. This is what it says. Nope, we don't believe you. Oh man.
That's why I say you got to be patient.
Yeah, you have to be patient with them regardless. Yeah, so yeah, what something might say, what something might be written down may not be actually what's really going on. You have to be super patient with them because they're not really consistent with a lot of things that they do in the Philippines, and you just have to kind of deal with it. I've gone to many of websites that are supposed to be for the Philippines, and I wasn't able to figure out what I needed to do. When my flight was canceled, even I was not even able to get a hold of people. I was 600 in the queue trying to schedule a new flight. They wound up rescheduling me for only going to Manila, but they wouldn't relink my other flights all the way back to St. Louis, Missouri. And I wound up trying to be 600 in the queue trying to contact them, but I kept running out of load on my phone. But I wound up finding somewhere, I don't even remember where I found it, but I wound up finding somewhere where I was able to contact Philippine Airlines through a WhatsApp, where I was texting a guy back and forth, and I was on a WhatsApp text with this guy for over 4 hours trying to get this fixed. And trying to relink everything back together because he wasn't quite understanding what I was doing. And yeah, you just, like Bob just said, you have to be patient. You have to be so patient.
And a travel agent helps because then the travel agent will do it for you.
That's true. But
having a problem and they'll say, I already know. What do you want to do? Oh, try to get me a next flight. Okay, I'll do that. And so then you don't have to get 600 in line.
I got two things to add, guys, on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Bob, with the travel agent, and then back to before we spoke about paying a little extra money to go with a better airline. If you have issues compared to Delta versus, say, Sun Country or Spirit Airlines, your customer service and those troubleshooting and those solutions are going to get fixed so much. Going to be a lot easier to fix with Delta. I had a similar issue where they changed my flight. I booked months in advance, and then all of a sudden I get an update. Oh, your flights have changed. And they added, like, I had a direct flight from Minneapolis to South Korea and then from Korea to Manila. But then all of a sudden they added like 3 layovers. Like first flying me to like Detroit, Michigan. And then from there flying, I'm like, why am I flying east and then flying back west? So I literally just called the guy and said, hey, I called Delta and I said, hey, this isn't going to work. This is originally what I booked. And what happened, and I don't know, just so pay attention, guys. You know, if you book in advance, pay attention, check your app or check your website. And then they basically ended up putting me right back on the original flight that I booked. I'm like, why did I get moved off this flight? But I got the email and I called them like within the hour. So just pay attention to that. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up, which doesn't involve airports, Paul, you were talking about having load on your phone for service. I would recommend going with your phone provider and seeing if they have options. Yeah, like for example, I have AT&T. Yeah, AT&T offers international data or international service, basically for $10 a month or something like that, or $10. I can't remember. It was actually fairly cheap. But all I did was I went onto my account and I said, from this date to this date, I'm going to be in the Philippines. And Philippines is a country that is covered. So basically, I paid a flat fee to have service while I was in the Philippines. So when I was in the Philippines, I had 5G data. I had phone service. and I paid one flat fee with my phone provider. So I would recommend, guys,
Mm.
and if your phone provider does that, it saves you so much time and hassle, not
Yeah.
having to buy those chips or the load, or just
One.
talk to your
Yeah.
provider, and
Yeah.
your phone's going to work just like normal. So
Sometimes I know this is one thing that you have to be careful about your phone provider, because sometimes they do slow down your data. I know T-Mobile. Okay, so I've gone with Google Fi, and I switched away from AT&T, and I decided to try to use their SIM cards instead. Maybe I could have still stuck at that particular time when I did go. I didn't think about it, but I guess I could have stayed with the AT&T, but I didn't really know what it would actually cost me, and I thought it would maybe be cheaper for me to actually just go ahead and use their SIM cards. Even though my current one was still active, I didn't activate it to be international, and actually that kind of screwed me up when I got to Manila, because since I didn't actually set up for it to be international, to actually use it for the Philippines, like you just mentioned, Mitchell, I wasn't able to use my phone the moment I arrived. So I do recommend, at least if you can, when you arrive, at least have it set up that way. I do
yeah,
recommend at least that, and to at least do that. But the one thing I will say about T-Mobile, what is it? Sprint. T-Mobile bought out Sprint, I think now, and they slow down your data to almost where you can't even use it. So you have to be super careful. Even though they'll let you use it in the Philippines, they immensely slow it down. Now, since I signed up for Google Fi now, and I like Google Fi, it's cheaper now than AT&T. They actually allow you a pretty significant amount of data if you actually do. I think I do this. I currently I have the Simply Unlimited plan from Google Fi, but they have another one that's more like unlimited, better than that, and that one's actually for international. If you really want to do it for international, they actually give you way more data, and I recommend at least switching over to that if you're going to travel a lot. So, but if you can afford it and you still want to keep your cell phone plan, you can do it, but you're going to face some roaming charges either way, though.
Well, what I'm speaking to is maybe like your data slowdown could be the availability of that. I can only speak to AT&T,
there is
but I just
availability.
Googled it, and what it is AT&T. It's $10 a day, and basically you get everything. Your phone works like normal. So I landed in Manila, and I could pull up my phone, and I had service, I had internet, and I paid $10 a day. And if you go, for example,
that's a pretty significant charge. You're paying $10 a day. Times 30 days, though. That's a lot.
Yeah, but absolutely.
If
but
you
then,
can afford it.
But for me, I don't want to have to land and not have a phone, and then have to or then go and buy a SIM and then put that in, and then have X amount of load, and then my load runs out and I'm in the middle of nowhere. Or, to me, it was just convenience. And once again, it all comes down to your budget. And it's not perfect, but for me, peace of mind, $10 a day, and I can land in Manila and my phone's working already. That's great.
Yeah. So I recommend at least doing it because I face that issue, and Bob faced that kind of same issue too. And I'd recommend, at least if you do have a cell phone, at least setting it up internationally temporarily, and then if you have an unlocked phone, at least using it there for that. But if you have a locked phone, I would recommend it. The possibility, if you can't afford it, go ahead and just stick with the plan you got. Paul T said, I think they drop it down. I think they drop down the data to like 2G speeds. I think they might too with T-Mobile. And then he also says, another issue with buying SIMs in the Philippines is the law about registering it to you now. What do you mean by that, Paul? I'm not really sure about registering it to you now. Are you talking about like the eSIMs, or I'm not sure what he means about that. But yeah.
While he's thinking about that, I wanted to bring up the issue of what I like to do on that plane, that long flight, especially in that long one, is to have the ability to use my phone and get on and work on my channel or check my email or Google search. And I bought the United plan when we went to the Philippines, and it just basically didn't work. On the way back, my wife bought a pocket Wi-Fi that we could keep charged the whole time on the way back, and it actually worked. So that pocket Wi-Fi in the Philippines, worked better than the United situation I paid $30 for, and it just didn't work. But the pocket
Mhm.
Wi-Fi did, because that long flight, yeah, there's a TV screen, but that's a long time for me not to check stuff that I'm used to checking
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
pocket Wi-Fi, maybe that's something you need to carry around, whether you're
I,
there or on the plane.
yeah, I know my wife mentioned a little bit about hotspots and pocket Wi-Fi's and stuff like that, and I know that definitely does come in handy, especially if you're traveling a lot. It works better off that way. Paul T said they want you to identify who has each SIM account. I don't know anything about that. That might be something new. If it is something new, let us know. I didn't know. Did you face anything like that, Mitchell?
No,
Identifying you?
no,
I
because
didn't.
I went to my provider and I said
Yeah,
for days
yeah, that's
through
true.
days
Yeah, you
these
did.
days I want active
Mhm.
um,
I would have to
international
talk to my
plan.
wife about that. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it sounds like it just kind of makes sense. They don't want people to do shady stuff with a sim because you can get away with it. But
Mm. Yeah, that's true.
it's all comes down to your personal preference and kind of what your budget is. But
Yeah.
that's just one thing I would recommend, guys, is just going check with your provider and just Google it. For example, if you have AT&T, I just Googled just a moment ago. I Googled because I couldn't remember. I Googled
Yeah.
AT&T international data plan, and then you can pull it up and it gives you all the details. So for $10 a
Yeah.
day, use your phone while
Yeah.
I mean, I know
I
I keep
know I
saying the
did.
same thing over again, but that was super
It's
exciting for
fine.
me. I
That's
was
fine. I'm glad. I'm glad that worked out for you because I did face an issue where they locked me out of my debit card, and even though I put a travel notice on all my cards, and one thing I found out is that I wasn't able to use one particular card, and I was trying to schedule a flight. I was able to use one of my credit cards to schedule my flight instead, but my debit card, they wound up locking out my debit card, even though I put a travel notice on it. So I wound up having to call my bank internationally and tell them, hey, you locked out this card when you're not supposed to. And they were like, well, we noticed that there was something that was happening online in the Philippines and we locked it out. I'm like, well, that was me. So can you unlock it? But yeah, but I wound up having to sign up for an an international call plan through the current SIM card service, which was kind of difficult through either Globe or I think I wound up using Smart for a minute, and then I wound up switching to Globe because I think Globe worked better for me, and I think Smart wound up locking me out for some reason. I couldn't use it, and I couldn't figure out how to use Smart. So me and my son just switched over to Globe, and it worked out better. But I wound up having to sign up for an international plan just so I can call overseas. Then I had to figure out how to do that too. That was a whole nother issue. So
You guys, can't you just use Wi-Fi on your phone that's tapped into your hotel or your wife's Wi-Fi?
Yeah, you sure can.
you
But
mean
if you're out,
call like Wi-Fi calling? Is that what you're trying to
No,
say?
no, just internet.
Well, internet, yeah, but if you're trying to make an actual phone call,
Well,
that's
you can use
different.
like Viber, for example, is an app, and you don't pay
Yeah.
for anything there.
Well, I guess you could. I didn't think about Viber.
Yeah,
I guess
that's how we
yeah.
communicated in
Yeah.
those early days was Viber. I still have it.
Okay.
I still use it to communicate with my wife. You can do video on that. You can just call and do audio or Facebook audio. That won't cost anything, I don't think.
Okay.
yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, it's
But
possible.
I also just don't want to connect. I mean, my hotel internet's probably fine, but if I'm at an airport, I don't want to connect to random Wi-Fi's at an airport. I think in today's day and age, there's a lot of bad
Yeah.
actors when
Yeah,
it
you
comes
got
to
to be
stuff like that.
careful.
And it
Even hotels, you got to be careful too. Like any
yeah,
public Wi-Fi, you got to be careful.
but I
But
plan to go go for a drive, or I'm going out I'm going out to this other island, or I think it's just convenience for me. That's
yeah,
why I keep bringing it
Yeah,
up. It's just
absolutely.
having, so like if you're out in the middle of the country, because we went and visited some family that lived way out in the middle of the country. We walk, you pull up dirt road, and we actually had to get out and walk and out to the rice paddies. It was awesome. And I'm
mm,
out of there. I'm out in the middle of nowhere, kind of in a jungle in a rice field. But I have my phone there, and if I needed to, I could call or go online. Or but yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, you can have the
As long as it
Wi-Fi.
works
But
in the jungle, because sometimes mine didn't even work at all. So,
and then I think, like Paul mentioned, another factor, guys, if you're going to the Philippines for the first time, of course,
yeah,
traveling, check in with your banks. Weirdly enough, my bank, I called and I said, "Hey,
yeah,
I'm going to be traveling." Like, "Oh yeah, you
Right,
don't have to tell us anymore." And I'm like, "What?"
right.
So,
yeah,
but I think it's still worth the chance to call and let them know, so you don't have issues. And in Paul's case, you might still have issues, but make
yeah.
sure
I
you.
wound up still having an issue because I bought something. I bought something online and it wound up flagging it.
Hmm.
It was kind of weird. instead of buying it personally in the Philippines, I bought something online, and
Oh, see, that's why I did that.
yeah, it was dumb. So that was kind of
I'll be right back,
Paul
guys.
T said, okay, it's okay. We're getting ready to close here in a minute. It's 11 for you, and I think it's 10 for us. Wi-Fi calling apparently bypasses some of the long distance charges, but I haven't worked it all out. Yeah, I think so. I think so. Also, Paul T. It can work out some of the ways, and I know WhatsApp kind of works in the Philippines too. Bob's mentioning Viber. I haven't really used Viber much, so I don't really have a whole lot of experience with it. But I'm sure it could work out. And this is all dialogue. It's all new to me, so I'm trying to figure this stuff out. And anything can help other people. So, and this kind of gets at everyone at least some kind of knowledge and experience, especially when you go over to the Philippines. Hey, this is the issues that we faced. Don't make the same mistakes, right, Bob?
Yeah, and you should always learn from different people, especially your wife.
Yeah.
And Viber is really good. I like it because I can send her those stickers, which I kind of like. I just sent her one the other day, and I still use it. Why? Because that's what we used back in 2015. So being the sentimental type, I want to make sure I've got Viber on this computer and Viber on my phone, just for old time's sake. That's how we communicate. And Skype and Viber were the big ones, and then eventually it became Facebook when I knew what that was. But yeah, you live and you learn, and I'm excited for everybody here to go out there. I did want to mention some of the older guys. We were talking about roads. Some of the roads can be very bad if you got a bad neck like I do, and you're up in the mountains. Let's say your girlfriend says, "Well, let's go up here. I know some people that live up there." You're gonna feel like you're on the moon, or you're an earthquake. Or an earthquake on the moon. There's rocks the size of footballs, in the streets, and you're just, up and down, and there's holes in the road, and I don't know how the
potholes for sure.
All the time. Yeah, the roads can be bad. The mountain areas can be very, very rocky, and of course the traffic. And you may be in a tricycle, which I recommend the tricycles. They're no big deal. They're fine. But if you get in there and all the exhaust, this is going to come right in your face, because you're right there in the open, which you aren't normally in the United States, and then everything comes right at you, and that bothers a lot of people too.
Yeah, I had a particular individual that said that he was only going to take what was it? Instead of grabs, he was only going to take grabs. And I said, I don't recommend only taking grabs. I think you should the possibility take other possible minor transportations, because one thing is they're cheaper, and even though they might be trying to overcharge you sometimes, you can still at least try to haggle your way to figure out these transportations. You should also trust your wife or your particular spouse at the time. Trust what they're saying, what the prices are, because you actually mentioned that your wife argued with this particular person, and that was kind of the thing. So I think just having that experience with these tricycle drivers or these motorcycle drivers, or even on jeepneys and other things, I think that's a greater experience for you to get the full scope of what the Philippines is like. And you even mentioned, Bob, do you kind of understand what your wife goes through every day?
I agree, because you can go see where she went to school, where she grew up, if possible.
How they grow up in these things.
Her friends, her classmates, and the travel. What's it like to get in the back of that scooter, or the tricycle, or the jeepney, or even worse, a bus in Manila that's got 3 times too many people on it. And you're scared to get off because you can't get through there. And maybe your girlfriend gets off of the bus, and you can't make it, and it starts taking off, and it's just like, that would be terrifying.
but it's still fun. It's still an interesting experience. I think just dealing with those experiences, I think they're just generally cheaper, instead of just always trying to take a grab or a taxi all the time. Now we did take a taxi a lot, but I didn't even use a grab. I didn't even download the app. Well, actually, I did download the app, but I never used it. And that was just kind of my experience. I wound up friending a taxi driver, and he wound up picking us up, so it was really helpful too. And I wound up we also from Cagayan, we also took a ferry all the way up to Cebu. That was pretty cool, and that was kind of a big experience. We actually got our own cabin and everything, and I was trying to find a cheaper way instead of taking a plane. How can we go all the way to Cebu? That might be cheaper on all three of us, because granted, it was going to cost us for a round trip. I think it was going to cost us well endowed over $600. So I wound up taking a ferry, and even though it was going to take us 9 hours, we wound up getting our own personal cabin, and I think it only cost us $200 instead of $200 for one trip and then $300 on the way. Wait, so I think it was less than $200. I think it was less than that, but it wound up being only a third of the cost what it would normally cost us to actually take the trip all the way there and back. Now, granted, if you got to go faster, you actually got to be at places, and you can actually afford it, then do it. But if you got a little bit of time, try to find alternate routes. It's going to take you a little bit longer for those with those slower times and those slower vehicles, but just enjoy the experience if you can ever go.
One thing I would want to add to this, guys, and if you're comfortable with it, I wouldn't maybe recommend this for Manila, but like if you go to a smaller island or you're out in a province, one thing that I actually really enjoyed was I rented my own motorbike.
I did too, yeah,
and that was fun, just driving around and just like,
yeah.
man, that was a lot of fun, and it saves you.
Did
it's
you get
convenient and
yeah?
And
Did you
it's
get a
quick.
scooter? Did you get a scooter, or did you get an actual motorcycle?
It's like a
A moped?
Honda, like a Honda moped, yeah, or
Yeah.
motorbike they call them.
Yeah.
But
Some
it
places, yeah.
goes pretty quick. It can
Mhm.
go, and then
Yeah.
at first, of course, like the traffic is intimidating. But one thing I will say,
Yeah.
in my opinion, is that I think even though there's a lot going on those roads, I think the drivers are actually better than, for example, I can't speak to all of America, but for in Minnesota, I think the drivers are actually, once you kind of learn the flow of the traffic, it actually is pretty smooth. Because
Yeah.
everyone follows the rules. If you're going fast, you're bypassing your left. If you're going slow, you stay on the right, and everyone just follows the rules. And sure, it kind of looks
In a way,
intimidating because there's a
there
lot
is,
going on,
yeah.
but if you
Yeah.
follow the flow of the traffic, and it might take you a day or two to get comfortable with that, and it took me a day
Yeah.
or two, but
It did too for me.
and yes, you, Paul, if you want to pull up Paul T's comment about renting a scooter, can you
He
rent a
said-
scooter with a regular driver's license? Yes, you can.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
need your regular American driver license.
I think you can rent. I think you can rent it. Don't quote me on this, but your regular driver's license is valid in the Philippines for, I think, approximately 3 months. But you can get an international driver's license if you do have AAA, and you can check with your insurance. And what they do is they give you this, and I have it somewhere, but you can actually get this. It's kind of like a card thing with actually has your picture in it, and it's technically an international driver's license. You can get it through your insurance company too, and I think it only costs like $20 or so. And and a good thing, and the main reason why that matters is you're not handing anybody your regular normal driver's license. You're giving them this actual this fold up piece of paper, cardboard looking thing with your picture in it, that basically if somebody does run off with your stuff, at least you still have your actual physical ID. So so I do recommend, if possible, go ahead and get that international driver's license, just so you can show people that, and that way you're not actually giving people that might be try to steal your stuff that can actually do it. And I think that's a better opportunity to do that. And at least you're able to drive longer. At least it also shows that what you are registered to drive and use. But yeah, you can use your regular driver's license to use for also a motorcycle or that over there. But I know it's better if you have an actual motorcycle driver's license to show over there too, though.
Yeah,
But
and you can rent a car too. I rented a van. Like,
yeah, I want to rent a car also. It only cost me $80.
Yeah, it was super affordable because we went to the chocolate house. We brought the whole family. We had parents, grandma, siblings, brothers. So, and it was just like, okay, if we're gonna be driving for a couple hours, maybe it'd be a little more comfortable in a van. But I to be honest,
was your car manual or automatic?
Automatic. You can choose which.
Okay. That
you can choose.
That was different.
You rent it
because
it'll be manual if you don't rent it.
Well, for me, since I rented it in a small town in my wife's hometown, it was kind of difficult for me. And I know mostly they drive manual there.
Yeah.
So I'd recommend, if you have the opportunity, to at least learn manual on both motorcycle and car, depending on where you're going, especially if you're going to a small town, small island. If they don't have any available, at least you have the opportunity to pick up a manual, and and I think that's probably pretty good. The car I rented was a manual, and that's all they had was available. They didn't have any automatics, and since I wasn't in a big town, and the closest big town I had was Cagayan. Um, I wound up renting my moped from a neighbor. So and the neighbor lady didn't even know how much to charge, so I only gave her like 2,000 pesos, like $40, and we wound up renting it for like a couple days. So it wasn't yeah, she didn't even know what to charge, but she let me borrow her moped, which was like probably a $2,000 moped. So
Yeah, the one
yeah,
I got,
because
it had a lot of zip. I was kind of
mhm,
worried, but no, it can get
yeah,
going. And I paid like $10 a day, and I think it really depends on who you rent it from. But
yeah,
I had recommendations before I went, and I checked Google reviews and stuff like that. So I emailed them ahead a time and I said, "Hey, this is where I'm staying. Can you bring?" And they delivered it to you. So I said,
yeah. I'm
"So
sure they
on
can.
this day, can you bring it?" And they're like, "Yeah." And so he's like, "All right, I'll just email you when I'm at the lobby." And so he emailed me, and I walked down and got my bike, and he said, "All right, it's going to cost this much for X amount of days." I said, "All right, here's the money. Cool." And he's like, "All right, man, do you know how to drive it?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "All right." So maybe there's probably, depending on who you rent it from, there might be more formalities, but for me, it was pretty slick.
And
Um,
condo taxes, maybe even more. What Bob was kind of mentioning, they might charge you a little bit more.
If your wife's with you or girlfriend, then you just let her do, or you do her let her do the talking, and you just kind of stay out of the way. Otherwise,
yeah,
if they see
Yeah,
you, they always can say they're not going to notice. They don't care. But if your
yeah.
wife is there doing it, she's going to get the Filipino rate.
I did have a fun story when it came to a taxi, and I just wanted to try it one time. And
hmm
the one time, where were we going? I think maybe doesn't matter. But I said, "All right, I'm going to stand over here. I want you to walk up to that guy and find out how much it's going to cost to go here." And she walked up to him, and then she waved at me, and I walk over, and then when we dropped us off, he said a different price, and then she's like, "No, no, no." So it was kind of deceived him, but at the same time, it was kind of funny. Like I'm like, I want to see, and sure enough, yeah, he tried to charge more. Just trying to make a living, try to put food on the table
yeah,
for him. But it was still kind of a fun thing to do, and to kind of get ahead of it. But always, and another interesting thing is, she when Red, my girlfriend, was with me, a lot of times we were going to places. I think they don't. It happened a few times where she speaks Bisaya, and I don't think the locals expected her to be from that area. But I was there with her. They maybe thought I was, bringing her around with me already. I'm not sure what they were expecting, but they were
yeah,
talking in Bisaya, and then she like interjected into the conversation. They go, "Oh, you know Bisaya?" And they're like, "Yeah, I know Bisaya." And then it was kind of funny because like I don't know, it was just like a funny little moment that they weren't saying anything bad, but they were kind of talking about us. And then
yeah,
she goes, "Oh, hey, you're talking about us. I can hear you." And they go, "Oh my god!" They're like, you could see it on their face. They're like, "Oh my gosh, you speak Bisaya?" Like she's like, "Yeah, I'm from Bolo." So it was a fun
yeah.
little story, but
Yeah,
always,
if you as a foreigner know Messiah, they'll be really surprised too, because they try to even converse and stuff and make sure that you don't even understand. I think at one point, one of the taxi drivers was talking to my wife and stuff, and I picked up on some of it. I didn't pick up on everything, but I know he was talking about me in, I wouldn't say bad spirit, but he was kind of talking to me about talking to her about me in a in a in maybe an obscure way. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but my wife kind of conversed and told me what he said, and but she did kind of correct him about it, but that was a whole nother thing. So, but yeah, she wound up talking to many people in Bisaya, so that was pretty cool though. I wish I knew more Bisaya too, and I know Mitchell, you said you're trying to learn it too, right?
yeah, slowly and
Yeah,
painfully. I
yeah,
struggle with even English, so
yeah,
like I was telling you earlier, I'm a numbers guy. I can do math all day, but when it comes to speaking, sometimes
hmm
I'm like, and then so. And she's
yeah,
trying to, little phrases and words here every day, and I pick up on things, and yeah, on
uh,
some knee, like what is this? And then I remember one time,
mm.
I was at her house and her uncle came over or whatever, and I come out of the back room and he just goes, "On Samani," and I just instantly I'm like, I caught it. It's always it's fun when you can catch
Know a
that
little
stuff like
bit.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There, Bob, how much Messiah do you know?
I don't know. I only
No,
know a few
no.
words that my
Oh,
wife
okay.
taught me back in 2015. I'm never going to learn it, and we're probably never going to live there. So
Okay, I
I
understand.
I
Yeah,
don't have to.
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind knowing more and just be able to
Oh,
talk to
if
my
you could
wife a
just
little bit.
pile that in my head like a chip, I'd like to be able to speak it fluently, but I don't have the
Yeah,
ability or time left to learn it
that's
fluently.
fine.
One thing I
Yeah.
want to mention here is we didn't talk quite about for sure is when you go to the Philippines to meet your girlfriend for the first time, be prepared to meet all of her family. You're not just going there you may be going there just to meet her, but
Hmm.
you got to take her family as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Introduce you
Yeah.
to aunts and
Yeah.
uncles and nieces and nephews and the children and her parents and aunts and uncles, and it's just don't be offended by that. Get used to it.
Yeah. I know when I was eating with my wife and her family. Now, granted, the sisters, and I kind of mentioned this with Bob, but might be my first time talking to you, Mitchell, and other people hearing this too. But the females, they know how to pretty much speak good English. The males there, they're a little shy about it because they're not very, they can understand it, but they're not very fluent in speaking it back. And one thing that I noticed was they had a meal spread and all the males came in and they got their food, but I didn't know where they went. And it was only the girls and the kids that were in the kitchen all eating. And I wound up turning to my wife and but her sister popped up and explained it. And I was just like, where's all the boys at? And they were like, they're outside because they're scared to talk to you. And I
Ah,
was like, yeah. And I said, okay. And so I got my food, I got my plate, and I walked outside and I sat next to them on a log and I just started trying to converse with them because that's what I want to do. I want to have that dialogue with them. I want to converse with them as much as possible.
okay, but did they have a decent enough English? Because that they probably
Well,
were ashamed and they didn't want to. They
they
just
didn't have they
okay.
didn't have a good enough decent enough English. But what we did back and forth is they mentioned one word and they said it and then I copied it and then we still laughed about it. It was fun. We had a dialogue enough to say, oh, this is a chicken and this is a blah and like that, and they would say stuff and I would kind of understand what they're pointing at and what they know. And it just allows me to at least still be able to understand them enough and for us to at least have fun with it, even though that there was some like silent points even in there, but just to have that time with them was really beneficial. And you even watched my one video about my vlog about my wedding and stuff like that. I no matter how much just being around them, I was just happy being around them because we were able just to feel the experience. I wound up now granted I'm not a big drinker though, but I wound up taking a couple of them. And I know Ophelia's fiance, he does speak decent English. And but him and one Joanna's brothers, we wound up at our hotel before we got married. I wound up taking the two boys to the bar. We got some food, and then I ordered a bottle of whiskey, and we all just kind of conversed a little bit as much as we could, and just talking about general nonsense and stuff, and just enjoying our company around. Now, my wife didn't like the fact that I wound up getting, I guess, buzzed before my wedding, but at least I was trying to have a conversation with their brothers, so brother and brother-in-law. So I was just I was just enjoying the time together. It was fun.
Well, I've never said this before, but when I met my wife, she knew I didn't drink. I told her I didn't drink alcohol.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
at the wedding, when it was all over after that
Yeah.
long day, we were at a table because we rented the condo for the night, the wedding venue, and then
Hmm.
her dad sat down and he offered me a beer, and
Mm.
I said, oh no, thanks, I'm not really into that. And then my wife later tells me he was testing me.
Really? Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
to see if I guess to see if I was going to
Gotcha.
lower my guard or if I was
Mm,
lying to him
I
or how
gotcha.
I would consume that beer like I
Oh,
used to.
okay.
And so
Yeah.
she said he was testing you. So I said,
Yeah.
well, I hope I passed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but
No,
yeah,
I'm
the
not a big
family has an
drinker though.
interest in you.
Yeah.
They do not want to give their daughter away to somebody they don't trust.
I understand that. Now, granted, my wife's parents are not in the picture, so I don't. And granted, they're no longer with us, but so we didn't have anyone to give away my wife, but we shared that experience, and we were able to put their pictures up at our wedding, which was good.
Good idea.
So that's what we did. But yeah, they passed away. Her mom died back in late 2012, and her dad died in 2021 from liver failure. And but we still we still we still had a silent moment even during our wedding reception and everything for them and everything too. So it was really nice, and just bringing that forward. But yeah, I just wanted to share the experience, the small time I had with her family too. So I was able to do that, and but I was happy though. But I'm not a very big drinker. I'm not. But when I do get out there and I want to converse with people, sometimes yeah, I'll have a small drink with some people just to get them to open up and talk to me a little bit at least. So because I'm not against people drinking. I'm not a big proponent of drinking myself. I'd rather drink a soda or coffee instead of drinking a beer every day. So and my wife gets on to me about drinking too much soda.
I get on her. She doesn't drink now, but I kept telling her, hon, like it or not, I'm kind of a fitness nut, and part of going
Yeah.
that is being not wanting to go to the gym and work hard and then come home and put a bunch of junk food in your body. So
Yeah.
it's been married almost 9 years, and
Fat.
she doesn't really drink pop anymore. And if she
Yeah.
brings home a little bottle of Sprite like this, it may last a week.
Mm.
To me, it would last about
Yeah.
90 seconds.
Mm.
But she can stretch it all out, and she hasn't been eating
Yeah.
rice lately.
Yeah.
But so that's a good thing. But don't forget the roosters and karaoke on your when you go to meet your girlfriend. You're gonna have to sleep there for a while, and if you're a late sleeper, there's karaoke and roosters that if you're an early, you go to bed early. Well, the
Yeah.
karaoke could be a problem, and there's just
Yeah.
nothing you can do about it.
Mitchell, what was your experience about roosters and karaoke?
Lots of chickens, but
Yeah.
I grew up with chickens though. So karaoke, actually got to hear it. Lots of live music. Love to sing.
Yeah, I
So
love it.
lots of live music. So not so much karaoke, but lots of live music everywhere. Like on
Okay.
the beach, you're on
Yeah.
Alona Beach and Bohol. You walk up and down that beach, and every single bar has got someone singing.
Yeah,
Someone's
I like it.
or even
Hmm.
at the even at like resorts and stuff there. They always have shows and dinner, and so yeah, lots of singing. So I didn't interact with karaoke
Okay.
because I didn't when it came to the nightlife. I wasn't really, like I do enjoy a beer. I'm not a heavy
Yeah.
drinker, but I'll probably
That's fine.
like if I go out to eat with some friends, I'll probably get a beer or two, and I like a good beer. But when I was there, actually, I only had a couple beers, honestly, because back to the water issue is I was sweating so much. Like every time I had a beer, I would feel it like more than I would feel it here.
Oh
And it
yeah,
was
I
just
bet you
because
would.
it just felt so dehydrated. Like, because I was
Yeah.
constantly drinking. I was struggling to stay hydrated. I was drinking so much water. I mean, I wasn't struggling, but you know what I mean? Like, just sweating so much. So, there's a few times I had a few beers and I just realized, like, you know what? I don't even need it because I'm just not saying that I need beer here to cope with anything, but it's more of just like a something to drink. But when I was there, I'm like, I'm excited. I want to have this tea with some calamansi, or I want to have, I just want some water because I'm just thirsty because I'm
Mhm.
sweating. So,
Yeah.
so we didn't really do the nightlife. Wasn't really, we went out to a few nice dinners and at night, and um, or went to this one joint, some good chicken, barbecue chicken, and this vinegar sauce. Oh, I loved it. And a cold beer hit the spot for me. I had one cold
Mm.
beer. I slurped it down, but then I went right back to water and tea. Because
Yeah.
I fell in love with that tea with that calamansi.
Yeah. 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 It's like it's different than here. So pineapple juice and tea there. That was kind of the main thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was
Lots of smoothies, non-alcoholic. Like I'm just like fresh
yeah.
fruit smoothies, like coconut and pineapple, mango. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's good. That's good. Being in Minnesota, can't get
Yeah.
the fresh fruit like that. So that was awesome. So
I know when we were down to Davao, we I forgot the terminology, but it's bubble tea, whatever it's also called. I forgot the name for it for bubble tea, but we wound up going to that place. That was pretty cool too. So it was really cool. I want to just target a real quick, and Paul T says something here. I guess we can cover that in a second too. But I know Bob is kind of in the fitness. Mitchell, I don't know if you're kind of in the fitness. I'm definitely not in the fitness. I'm fat. So, but I know one thing that I face, especially in the Philippines, is if you're a broad shoulder guy or even a fat guy there, the Philippines is not very accommodating toward heavier set people for sure.
Watch your head.
Like watch your head.
I hit my head so many times going through
Oh,
doorways and
yeah, taller
even
people too, I guess. Yeah.
even like
Yeah.
her
I'm
family's
short,
house.
so I'm 5'4", so I didn't have to worry about that.
Okay,
but
yeah.
I'm a short guy. And I know Bob might have faced the same issue. But
Yeah,
so
I'm just under the limit at about 6'2", so
okay.
I mean,
So
yeah, some of those tricycles you might under the umbrella, you might
yeah.
have to,
Yeah. How tall are you, Mitchell?
Like 6'1". Let's see it.
You
I got
guys
me-
you
I
guys
got
would just
measured.
tower over me.
I
Man,
got
I'm a
measured.
short guy.
I got measured back in the day.
I'd be a kid next to you guys.
No,
So
it's just yeah. I
Paul
even like
T
the
says
family
he's also
house.
a taller guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I so
He's also
I
62.
watched my head like going in and out of her parents' house, and I was always careful. But then just like the one time you're not paying attention, doop, hit, bump your head. But he goes, oh, on a fan. Once I got hit by a fan, we went to visit her great grandma at a
Oh,
house, and it was like a small little room because her grandma, very nice lady. She was super funny. Man, she was great.
okay.
I was so glad I got to meet her. But actually, when I walked into the room, I walked in and a fan hit me right in the forehead, and everyone just starts a ceiling fan. Everyone just laughing because the ceiling fan was hanging low, and everyone was just laughing. It didn't hurt that, but it wasn't like a. It luckily it was like kind of like a plastic one. It wasn't like a thick
Yeah.
wood one or anything, so it didn't hurt too bad. But it was more of like a oh, but it was that was pretty funny getting hit by the fan, and then yeah, watch your head if you're a taller guy. Just keep that in mind. I guess I
Yeah.
didn't have too many issues with my shoulders because I guess I got some pretty
Yeah.
broad shoulders, but
Well, just being a bigger guy. So if you weigh more, I know one thing that so they have a I know when I went scuba diving, okay, that was like it. The biggest wetsuit they had was really too small on me, and I could barely fit in and take that thing off. And
what
one thing,
video can we see these pictures in?
you want to see that video? I can show
Yeah,
you that
the
video
one
right now.
two sizes too small. That'd be.
Yeah, I can show you the video. I don't look good in that wetsuit right now for sure.
I had some issues with
It's definitely not hugging me for sure. And but Seven Seas Water Park, I didn't get to go to do that, but even though I wanted to, I wouldn't be allowed to even get on the rides at that water park because I'm too heavy. So like anyone over like a certain like 100 kilograms, you had to talk to my wife, I think, because they like weigh everybody. So basically, they don't want people flying off of it being too heavy. And even though in the US they're more accommodating toward heavy people, they just put heavier people on one side and lighter people on the other. So they measure and weigh you out. So you weigh out, you balance out on those rafts. In the Philippines, they won't even let you ride it. That's how it is. So, and I know Bob had an issue trying to find the right kind of barong, the right size when he was trying to get married. I wound up not even be able to fit in any barong when I went to the mall. I wound up trying to fit in a tux, and the tux that I was even currently in for to get married was way too small for me, even though that was like the biggest one they had. So I should have brought my own tux, but I didn't.
One thing I had trouble with though was they have these little ledges before you walk into a house or a room. I'm constantly tripping, feel like a fool tripping walking into a room. It's like, I don't know, we must not do that here because I'm always tripping there because they have a little ledge. They take off their shoes and leave the shoes outside, and then I don't know. I just trip a lot going in out of
for like
rooms
the
there.
rain. I think it's for like rain, maybe. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Paul T said, he said, I learned that even the larger size in the fills for things like shirts can be even too small. Yeah, I had the same issue too. One thing I do know, and talking to my wife a little bit, like it depends on which mall you go to. So if you go to like some kind of mall, some average mall in the Philippines, sometimes the largest they have is like our version of a medium, and but I think if you go to the SM mall, they might be a little bit more accommodating toward fatter Filipinos. They might have somewhat bigger sizes, but it's still kind of hard, and especially finding like bigger shoe sizes, even wider. I have wide feet, so I have a 4E wide foot because I have such a high arch, and it's really difficult. I don't know if I can even fit in any shoes in the Philippines, and it was really hard for me even finding certain sandals, and even for my son too. It was really difficult. So they really only accommodate smaller people in the Philippines. It's really difficult. That was kind of one thing. Okay. Bob, did you? Okay. So
Dickies shirts. My wife brought these Dickies brand shirts, and I don't know how they fit now because I don't know if I'm a little heavy or not. I don't remember.
yeah.
Those Dickies shirts, they really, I don't like baggy stuff, and the shirts were just right on the sleeve,
Oh
and
yeah.
they weren't too tight. The Dickies brands. I always thought, wow, this is really amazing that these. I usually tell him, don't buy shirts for me, please. They're not going to fit, And then I try it on, and it's like, well, I think we got something here with this.
Okay. Well,
particular
was that
brand.
in the Philippines?
Yeah, Dickies.
Okay. Okay. Maybe that. Yeah.
Shirts.
Yeah. I know being wider shoulders and kind of broader people in the Philippines, they're kind of skinnier people, and it's just not. It's not the same. Yeah. So that's one thing you got to watch out, especially in the Philippines, is if you are trying to clothing shop, they're not really accommodating for bigger people. Now, maybe in Manila they might be, because it all depends on the kind of I guess the kind of freight they bring in. So I know further down you go, their commerce is kind of more slimmer than it compared to like Manila and Cebu. And I know the ex-president Duterte, he's actually speaking up against that right now in Mindanao, because there's just not a lot of what is it called? Can't think of the word. There's not a lot of building up what is it called, like I can't think of the word. Basically you build more buildings and stuff. What is it called?
Infrastructure.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good infrastructure down in Mindanao. I was trying to find that word. There's not a lot of good infrastructure, and not a lot of materials for that infrastructure to build up in Mindanao. And it basically Duterte's kind of going after Marcos a little bit, the current president, because he's not even helping out Mindanao through future developments right now. And Duterte wants Davao to be almost like the new BGC, the new Manila, but they're not helping them at all. So
build is what he said.
Yeah, he's trying to do that too. So he's calling out Marcos on that a little bit right now. So
Davao's they got lots of good malls. They even did a video. They had a Converse shoe store there in the mall, and I thought, wow, now I feel at home.
Yeah,
we don't even have one here. It's like 60 miles away, I guess, to find.
I need a New Balance store. That's what I need, though. I have such wide feet. I need a New Balance store.
Well, they probably have them, in the mall.
Maybe somewhere. Yeah. You have to hunt around. You can't really just call places there.
Okay, I got to talk to my wife. I got to go on mute. Actually,
that's okay. Mitchell, did you buy any clothes while you were down there?
No.
Okay, you just brought your clothes.
Yeah, I don't. I really think I'm trying to rack my brain. I just don't think I ever. No clothes. We're kind of. I think on our next visit we're gonna do some matching outfits so we can be cute, So I think I'll experience that on my next visit.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I was lucky enough. I kind of came prepared, and everything kind of worked out for me.
Yeah, I tried my best to try to get prepared also, and it helped me out a little bit because I was just kind of rotating my clothes that I currently had. Now I did buy a few clothes that while I was there. And I did buy my wife some clothes also, which kind of helped us out a little bit. I know when I had to overextend my stay a little bit because the recent typhoon, and I wasn't able to leave. My wife, who was planning on me leaving, she wound up not bringing all of her clothes. So we wound up having to go to the mall to get her some extra clothes just so she could stay with me just a couple extra days longer. So that was kind of, yeah. But it was pretty fun though.
Oh, what do you recommend for people to get their clothes washed? Just to throw up something that maybe they hadn't thought about.
Okay. All right. So there's different places you can get your clothes washed in the Philippines. And that was one thing that I had to deal with. And one thing my wife wasn't even sure how to do. I do recommend if you have an Airbnb, so the Airbnbs will sometimes have a washer and dryer combo. Sometimes you can actually search them through the Airbnb to make sure they have them like in the Airbnb also. And one thing that some of these Airbnbs would even have would be like a place to even hang them up in like the like above like the actual building. There was one that we would actually they actually had like an actual particular rack for all the different rooms, and you would able to actually just hang dry them there too, which was pretty cool too. Um, but I would recommend this. Typically, when you go to a hotel, especially when we went to the Waterfront Insular Hotel in Davao, they wound up charging us nearly $40 to wash our clothes and dry it and do all these extra stuff that we didn't even really want them to do. And but when we went to like a local town and a local washer and dryer place, typically you can't wash your clothes, but you do pay somebody to wash them for you, and you can actually look for local laundromats around you. And typically they would get them done, either if not within a couple hours, they would get them at least done by the next day. And one thing I do recommend is to bring a travel laundry bag, so it actually folds up and zips up, which is really cool. At least bring two of them. I think it's really beneficial to have a travel laundry bag. And what you can do is you can drop off that travel laundry bag at those local laundromats, and then come back later and get them whenever they're available. And I think that's probably the cheapest way to do it if you're traveling a lot. Now, if you're staying with your spouse, your wife, and your family, typically they will do your laundry for you.
Right.
Joanna's sister wound up doing our laundry for us. Now, granted, they didn't have the best water, but they wound up doing it. And she wound up even sewing up my underwear, which was a whole nother thing. Yeah, I talked to Bob about that, but that's what they do. They're helpful and they hang dry them. Now, one thing is they hang dry, so it takes longer to dry it.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's one thing you have to take into account whenever that happens. Now, if you do pick a laundromat, they can have it. They don't even have to hang dry. They just wash it, and typically they'll also have dryers. And it's fairly cheap if you can find a pretty good one. My wife was able to get a hold of somebody on Facebook in her hometown, and I mean it was really cheap. I think it was only like a couple hundred pesos for us to have it locally done in her small town. And this one lady, she wound up having a nice house in some place we had to take a motorcycle up, but have her family take us up there and everything. Now, carrying laundry bags on a motorcycle is not easy. That's definitely not easy to do. But if you can do it and stuff, and while they're taking you up that way and you can figure it out, they want the local lady. I mean, she was super cool. She wound up making it pretty fun. But yeah, you can sometimes you can pay your Airbnb to do it for you. We kind of had one rush to do it for us while we were in Cebu, and they wound up doing it within 4 hours while we were at the one resort where we were doing the scuba diving. We paid a little extra. We had to talk to somebody. Usually anywhere you stay in that particular hotel, resort, or Airbnb, you could talk to somebody, and somebody who's doing the house cleaning will typically have a laundromat to do it for you. But if you don't want to, you can usually find locally around in that area a local laundromat. Only you're not doing the laundry at the laundromat. Someone else is actually doing it for you. So
We actually bought a small clothes washer for our place in Davao, but
oh yeah.
that's just used for the children's, the
Mhm.
little children's clothes.
Yeah.
I think we bought them something else, and they still haven't
Yeah.
even used it. I
Mm.
hope it's not that. But
there was one time we did wind up doing our laundry in the sink at one of our Airbnbs. So
yeah,
and
crash
yeah, and my
well
wife
well water.
was happily complaining to me that I should have bought her laundry soap. She's like,
Ah,
"This is yeah." If you go through some of my videos, she's like, this is for my body," and she's yelling at me, and I'm like, just wash, woman." But it was cool. Like I don't know if you ever seen a Filipino ever wash by hand. They rub it across their knuckles, and I can't. Yeah, you ever seen that, Bob? I don't know,
oh,
Mitchell. Have you ever seen it too?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They when they wash it, they rub it across their knuckle. It's really. And I was trying to do it. My wife was making fun of me, so but it was funny.
Yeah, definitely take for granted the washer and dryer that I have at home when I have to
Yeah, I
when I'm
do
on call
too.
with Ren and she's got to do her laundry and it's like, man,
It takes them
yeah,
hours sometimes to do their laundry.
you
Um,
take that for granted. That's for sure.
yeah,
Um,
I know. That's definitely true. I know. I know. When my wife tells me she's gonna do laundry, all right, I'll see you in like 4 hours, I guess. So, yeah. So, but that's how it is. Usually, when I do my laundry and stuff here, it's like, okay, I'll see you in like 10 minutes or something. Whenever I just load it up and and then I got to transfer it from the washer to the dryer. And
mhm.
she's talking to me about how she wants to hang it outside, and I'm like, when it's 12 degrees outside,
yeah,
you're not ever going to be able to wash it then. Sorry, dry it then. Yeah, you're not going to be able to dry it then.
I
You're
just
going to
hope
have to use a dryer.
I just
What?
hope, Paul, when people go to the Philippines, that they feel a sense of welcome from the girl and her family and
Mhm.
her schoolmates. Because if a guy was to go there, and I'm sure it's happened plenty of times,
Yeah.
and she seems kind of different now that he's there in person, and he's uncomfortable, and everybody seems uncomfortable, and he can get a bad feeling about the relationship. But I think our experiences have been very positive, where the family embraces us. Well, embrace the family.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
cause problems. But it sounds like for us it's gone pretty smooth. But there can be times when, if they're not really, the relationship isn't really good enough when they get there. Maybe there could be a lot of awkward moments, and you want to be fairly sure when you go that this is somebody that, you might be able to marry.
Yeah.
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 I was very lucky. I never had any issues like that. It was very warm, welcoming, and they were aware of me, and I've had chances to talk with them on video chats and
Sure.
stuff like that, and so. But no, I never had any issues with that, so that was great. I mean, if you do experience that, then I mean, of course, that's sure. If it's your first time meeting someone, I can understand maybe there being some awkwardness maybe at first, but really, I guess I never experienced that because if you talk to this person enough, then you kind of already know who this person is. So you get over that really quick. And I know Paul T asked, and Bob, you talked about, you already kind of addressed it already, but he was asking um, about staying hydrated. Well, and then also now here
Oh
he's
yeah.
asking, you can only feel real vibes in person, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Follow your heart, follow your gut, and hopefully that you feel it's natural. And luckily,
Yeah.
we all had that. And then back to the hydration point, like Bob was saying, it gets cools down outside. If you're on the beach, kind of use that breeze, but just lots of water, and then just like at home, electrolytes, Gatorade. I brought with me packets of what's that brand for babies? Pedialyte. I bought Pedialyte
Oh really?
powder packets with me. Yeah, I bought a couple boxes of them, threw them in my suitcase. So when I go back to my hotel or if I'm wherever I'm at, I have my jugs of water that I bought. I would don't overdo it, but every morning and night, I would mix one of those packets in and make sure to get my electrolytes on top of my
Mm.
water. Just lots of
Yeah.
water. Just constantly be drinking water. Be
I can see that. Yeah.
and then just pay attention to your body, and 'cause that was a huge issue for me, Paul. Like we talked about it earlier, and
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you were on the Paul T. I'm not sure if you were on the call then, but we talked about how much like I was sweating, and I'm from Minnesota, and so yeah, we have some humid summers, but and I've been down to New Orleans, and I've been to Florida, and I've been to Mexico, and but nothing compares to that heat that I had in June in the Philippines in Bothell. That
Mhm.
was that was hot, that was humid, it was thick, lots of water, lots of electrolytes, just
Especially
constantly
near the
drinking water.
beach. Yeah. Whenever you're near the beach, it gets really humid along those lines. I definitely agree with that. But yeah, I didn't think about the whole Pedialyte. This kind of that's a cool way to do it, especially packets like that. I didn't think
Yeah,
about
because
that.
it's
Really
like
cool.
it's a powder, so it's
Yeah,
you
and then
couldn't
for
bring.
electrolytes for kids, especially when you're sick and you need your electrolytes.
Yep.
So
So
yeah,
that really helped
yeah.
me.
Yeah. One thing that uh, I know we got to get off here. It's getting late, but we're already coming on to 3 hours. But one thing that I've already spoken this is toilet paper tablets. If anyone is still used to toilet paper, you don't want to try to use their bucket and their pail, which is the top bowl. You can always bring like these little condensed towels that literally expand, and you can actually compress towels, and you can actually put them in the water in the bucket, and it starts expanding. You can use it, you can use it like a wet wipe. So it's pretty cool. But the brand that I recommend is Porta Wipes, and you can actually get this little like an actual like a little tube of them, which has like 10 or 12 of them in the little tube. You can pocket it with you and basically use it just like a wet wipe, which is pretty cool too. Yeah,
We
I do
always
recommend.
buy extra toilet paper to make sure
Yeah,
hotel
yeah,
has it because they might
yeah,
not, believe it or not.
yeah, yeah. It's still beneficial, but yeah, if you do travel around, yeah, you can take those porta wipes. You can get a pack of 5, and that pack of 5, as long as you're being pretty consistent, as long as I mean, if you want to use toilet paper and you don't want to wash yourself with your hand and the pail, then you
No,
can.
no
I
way.
know, I
No,
know,
no
I
way
know.
in
But
the
if you
world.
don't want to do it that way, you want to do it the old-fashioned way, like we do it here in America, then you can at least you can get some porta wipes, and it kind of help you at least to alleviate to travel. Be careful though, because some of their restrooms, especially public restrooms, especially if you're off the beaten path, they will charge you to use that restroom. Be
Mm,
real careful, because some of those people, they'll let you use it, and then they'll ask you for a handout after you used it. So be careful about that too, especially if you're off the beaten path.
mm,
When we went to whale shark watching, I don't have a video on it because I mean I was taking a dump, but I was I used the bathroom, and when I got out of the bathroom, this lady was like literally like telling me you got to pay. And I was just like, I don't know why I need to pay. And I kept walking away, and this lady was started following me. And then my travel lady, who's Etna, she waved that lady on. She was
mm,
just like, no, no, no. Yeah. But that lady was trying to make her do that too.
mm.
Yeah, small Paul T says small fees. I
Yeah.
experienced
He's
that,
like,
but
you should
they
always
were
keep
really
small
upfront.
charges. Yeah.
They were really
Yeah.
upfront. They were upfront to me. Like there's a
Mm.
few smaller islands that I went to, like very
Hmm.
small islands. I mean, I guess I couldn't tell you how big. You could walk across it in 5 minutes. So really small. But I went to some of these smaller islands to go snorkeling and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a few times I had to use the bathroom, and it wasn't like an actual toilet, but it's just one of their toilets where you have the
Port
water.
Like a porta potty thing
Yeah,
almost.
and then you have the
Yeah.
water and you flush it down or whatever. But then yeah, they were really upfront about like, hey, you have to pay. Because I'm like, I
Yeah.
have to go to the bathroom and like I don't want to like just pee in the middle of this. I mean, I guess I could, but I don't.
Yeah.
I want to be respectful. I don't want to just pee in the middle of this little island with all the
Yeah.
because it's people live there. Like, there's their homes right there. I'm like, I don't want to be rude and pee right next to someone's house. So
Yeah.
like I'm gonna go use this bathroom, and the
There's
locals that live
extra
there.
fees everywhere. You got to be careful, because even they will nickel dime you to death in the Philippines. They have small service fees, or small little transaction fees, or entrance fees for different places. Even if you're just trying to explore, and you want to go to this restaurant as a nice viewing deck, or this garden, they're gonna ask you like individual members. They're gonna ask you for all these little small fees all around.
Oh,
So you
oh,
got to yeah, you gotta be a little careful about that too.
and then one thing I experienced was if there's a particular like tourist spot where there's like this dock and you can walk out to the end of it and it's
Mhm.
beautiful. It was totally worth it, honestly, at the end of the day. But I had to pay a small fee basically, which gave me a voucher ticket, and that
Yeah.
voucher ticket you can redeem at the bar. So basically, they're trying to get you to
Oh,
go to
okay.
their bar, and so it was like this little resort that I wasn't staying at, but I wanted to go to this deck because it was out in the mangroves. So you get to
Yeah.
walk through the mangroves out to the end of this dock, and it was beautiful. Like we went out there for a sunset, and I can't remember what I paid. It was a small fee, but basically, oh yeah, you're basically paying for this voucher, but you can take the voucher and you can go to the bar. And I'm like, well, I don't really want to go to the bar. I just want to go. But that's one thing. But I think it's just people trying to make the best of tourism,
they're just
trying to make money.
Being
yeah. Yeah. Like Bob said, being a little optimistic. Yeah, they don't get paid a whole lot anyway, and a lot of these people they don't hardly you don't see a whole lot of people and a lot of tourism come into these places, so they have to try to make the fees the best way they can to try to compensate it. But I mean, I see people daily trying to sell things, and they just try to they want to make a few extra bucks every once in a while, and it's what they have to live on. So it's understandable. But it's just we're not used to it in the West. We're really used to like, okay, just there's no real entrance fees. Like you can go to the zoo and free parking or something, and go to this park and use these free trails and go to these public parks that are all already paved, as paid by the city taxes and everything. That's one thing that I was even talking to my wife about, that we're so used to free accommodations in the US, and because we're taxpayers. Well, in the Philippines, they're not big taxpayers, so they have to make the money the best way they can to keep to keep these, I guess, amenities up the way they are. So that's kind of the difference. So yeah, you're gonna pay small fees every single time you go to places in the Philippines, and it's just
If
the
you
way
want
they
to find
do
a
things.
good wife and you've given up on America, you can still find a good wife in the Philippines. But there are some hassles that just are part of that goes with the territory that you have to be able to go through.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I think we're going to close tonight. It's been 3 hours. I do want to recommend anyone that if you do want to watch this live replay, I'm currently still trying to do an RSS feed, and I want to put this currently up on other podcast platforms, so you can listen to this. In the future, I haven't been able to pay for it yet because I'm kind of on a tight budget right now, but I will be uploading to Spotify and Apple Music or Apple Podcasts and other platforms out there, Google Podcasts and other ones. But I think they're shutting down Google Podcast and switching Google Podcast over to YouTube Music. But we are currently also on YouTube Music, because since I'm uploading this on YouTube right now, I just switch this live stream over and tell it, hey, I want you to be on YouTube Music. So you can follow this particular channel on YouTube Music. So if you just want to listen to it, you don't have to watch it. You can actually switch between video and audio, and while you're working, you can listen to this. I know we talk for quite a long time sometimes on these streams, but if you just want to listen to it in the background, you're well free. Just look up the JP Network, JP Network, and you can actually listen to this whole live stream. So, but and very soon we will be on Spotify, and I do have a couple of videos up on Spotify, but it's just time constraints and trying to deal with this RSS feed stuff, trying to figure out what's my best options to try to make this cheap, because what's going on is that I in order for me to upload, I have to pay in the amount of hours of this stuff, and then that becomes more costly. So I'm trying to figure out ways to make it cost effective for me to still do this and still kind of branch out this particular podcast to make it more accessible for everyone.
Oh, I never paid for any of my podcasts.
Okay. Well, you can help me with it, and it'd be really helpful. And if anyone else,
but I use something called Audacity, and I would take it right there, and then I went on like 5-6 different podcast places. I never paid for any of those.
Well, I know on Apple Podcasts, so you have to upload it on RSS. You have to now, so you can't just automatically upload it, which kind of terrible. It's kind of the way it is. Yeah, but yeah, I completely agree, MCJ. Yeah, if you like this dialogue, yeah, this is great. We will be live streaming every Friday night, starting 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Central Time. And if you guys just want to watch us and stuff, you can interact with us during these time frames. And if you like any of this, you guys want to like Mitchell, if you guys want to come in and have a conversation with us, tell us about your experience or even what you want to plan on doing, or if you have any questions, we're happy to help you anytime. So, but I guess we'll have something new for you, and we just want to thank Mitchell for being here with us today. So
Yeah, thanks. I mean, thanks,
Nice to
Paul,
meet you,
Bob.
Mitchell.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
nice. It was nice to be here, and I really appreciate it. It was a fun talk. It was something I'm passionate about, and hopefully,
yeah,
and Paul T, thanks for it's interesting to hear from me. Is hopefully I can add a different perspective that's helpful. And
hmm
once again, I just appreciate the opportunity, guys. It was fun.
yeah. Thank you, and yeah, I think every one of you, we're here to build each other up, and I know there's just so much out there that we're just looking for information, and I want to bring in more people like this and tell us about their experiences. I'm also in the process of trying to bring in another individual that built a couple houses in the Philippines, and I think Bob's also kind of had one particular house built in the Philippines
We
too.
felt free.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I want all that kind of information, because this isn't just for just getting married abroad, but what if you guys want to move back to the Philippines? I know a lot of people do that, and I think it's beneficial because there's just a lot of information out there and so much to go through. And I think this is just an opportunity for us to kind of find one particular place that's full of all this kind of information for people can just centralize and come together, and we can lift each other up and give the kind of information that people are really looking for, like what to do, what's the paperwork, how do I do this, what's it like going there for the first time, what's it like marrying a Filipina, how do I deal with Tompo, or all these other things that so many people have so many questions for. I know when I went to the Philippines, that was like, I'm just researching. Was that kind of your kind of issue too, Mitchell? You were just looking up everything.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
but it also helped. Like I
Yeah,
think
it does. Yeah.
ease of mind and just being prepared and just so many
Yeah.
things that you can prepare for. But then also like Bob said, be patient and just go in
hmm
there and have fun. I mean, you're going on vacation. Be
Yeah.
smart with be smart with what you're doing with your money, with your belongings, with your person.
Yeah.
Listen to the locals, listen to your girlfriend or wife, and just be patient and just go with the flow. Don't fight upstream, and have a great time.
Yeah, I agree.
And
All
try
right,
not
guys.
to lose your
And
temper.
do it. If you're on the fence and if you have the
Yeah.
money, just do it, guys.
Just
You
go
just got
out
to
and
do
do
it.
it.
Because if
I
you won't
agree.
regret this, like it gets said and memed a lot, but the YOLO, the you only live once, you just got to do it, guys. Don't if you're on the fence, just do it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. We will catch you next time. See you.
All right, guys,
Thank
have
you
a
and
good
good night,
weekend.
everyone.
Good night.
Yep.